Chapter 23:45. Each of them needs time to digest what they have learned in this period of time. Mayan nods, then hears Yun Ruhen suddenly look at Shi Qing, saying word by word, "Master, after my realm stabilizes, I want to go to Ziyunjie." Shi Qing is startled. "The 7 of you are going together?" Yun Ruhen hooks up her lips and smiles. "Of course, we, the Xiaoyao 7, are of one mind. Junior sister wants to go to Ziyunjie. As her senior brothers, how can we be left behind?" Mayan stares blankly at Yun Ruhen. Yun Ruhen looks at Mayan with gentle eyes. "Junior sister, from the moment I heard about your agreement with Xiaobao, I knew that the small Qingyunjie, and even Azure Blue World, can't keep you. For a cultivator of the Xiuzhen continent, no matter how talented they are, it usually takes decades to ascend. But junior sister is obviously not willing to wait that long. And to become stronger in a short time, it is absolutely impossible to be trapped in such a comfortable place like Qingyunjie and Azure Blue World. Therefore, she must go to Ziyunjie. No matter how dangerous it is, sometimes, danger also represents opportunity." Mayan says softly, "Senior brother, don't you want to be famous in Ziyunjie? If she goes to travel, the name of the Xiaoyao 7 may not be hidden anymore." Yun Ruhen sighs, revealing a helpless and tolerant smile. "Who asked me to have a junior sister who can't keep a low profile? Junior sister, don't think of abandoning us to become famous. I haven't had enough of being admired. Not to mention Ziyunjie, even if we want to go to the Xiuzhen continent in the future, to a higher and further place, we, the Xiaoyao 7, will go together. Sixth senior sister, if you dare to run away, we will dare to follow you secretly. And if we do something great, we will leave the name of Devil Incarnate Jun Mayan. He. Mayan snappily pats Luo Yu's head, then can't help but burst into a bright smile. Shi Qing looks at the lively and excited appearance of the 7 children in front of him. His gaze sweeps over Yun Ruhen and Luo Yu, and he sighs softly, his eyes a little moist. He coughs lightly. "Since you have all thought it through, I will not stop you. There is only one thing that I hope you will always remember. No matter what happens in the future, if you feel unhappy, come back. The Xiaoyao sect will always be your home." Su Qing walked into the room, trembling with fear, and saw a young girl wearing a light blue dress sitting in front of the window. Sunlight shone through the window, shining on the girl's body. Her snow-white skin was as exquisite and flawless as jade. Her exquisite facial features were beautiful beyond compare. In particular, the faintly discernible peach blossom eyes under her long eyelashes seemed to be reflecting the entire starry sky, causing one to be enraptured. However, how could Su Qing dare to have any romantic thoughts in his heart? Towards this ancestor, his eyes were filled with awe, fear, and worship. Not to mention how badly the whole Guyi sect had been messed with by her. In just this 1 year, the entire Green Cloud world's legend about this girl was unprecedented, shocking everyone's jaws off. "You came?" The girl's voice was soft and pleasant to the ear. Su Qing was so scared that his whole body trembled, and he fell to his knees. "Lord Jun, have mercy? I don't know what I did wrong. I will definitely change. Mayan looked at him amusedly. "When you were drunk that day, I saw that you were very bold, and you even dared to call me Devil Incarnate? How did you become like this after you sobered up?" Chapter 23:46. Su Qing was scared out of his wits. He banged his head on the ground and was about to cry and beg for mercy. Mu Yen said impatiently, "All right, stop howling. You've taken good care of Master. These are your whole unitary sect's rewards." She threw a Qiankuan bag at him. Su Qing blankly took the cosmos sack and looked inside. He immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. These are all for our whole unitary sect? What? Is it not enough?" No. Su Qing shook his head. It's enough. No, it's too much. We didn't do anything. How can we accept such a heavy reward from the great god?" Mu Yen said, "I told you to keep it. As long as you take good care of my master, you will get many benefits." Su Qing carefully observed her face. He was overjoyed when he was sure that she wasn't joking. "Oh my god. He thought he was going to die when he was taught a lesson by this demoness. He didn't expect it to be a blessing in disguise. Oh no. He couldn't call her demoness anymore. He had to call her Great God June. He said carefully, the Xiao Yao sect's residence is a bit dilapidated. This little one will renovate it and make sure that Master Shi lives comfortably. What do you think? Mu Yan looked at Su Qing with satisfaction. This guy has good eyes. After reporting how he was going to serve Shi Qing like an ancestor, Su Qing picked up the cosmos sack and prepared to take his leave happily. Mu Yan suddenly said, "Have you heard of the Raging Flame sect in the Qingyun world?" Raging Flame sect? Su Qing quickly turned around and said respectfully, "There is indeed a Raging Flame sect in the Qingyun world. It's also located on the Tianshan Mountains, but it's in the extreme south. It's quite a distance from here." He looked at Mu Yan carefully. "Great God June, are you going to the Raging Flame sect?" Mu Yan nodded. That day in the Woodfern's secret territory, Cheng Mei asked her to use the fire orchid to save her son's life. Her son was hiding in the Raging Flame sect in the Qingyun world. Since Mu Yan had promised Cheng Mei, she naturally had to do it now. Moreover, ever since Cheng Mei mentioned the Raging Flame sect, she felt that the name was very familiar. But he couldn't remember where he had heard it before. Perhaps she would remember it when she went to the Blazing Flame sect. Su Qing, the Blazing Flame's gate's base is a bit remote. This little one has been there once before. How about I lead the way? The sky was high and the clouds were light. The blue sky stretched for thousands of miles. From time to time, Su Qing would glance at the rapidly receding mountains and rivers, and then look at Mu Yan, who was resting with her eyes closed, revealing an expression of amazement. Who would have thought that a year ago, the Xiao Yao sect was so poor that they couldn't even take out a single crystal stone? But now, he could casually take out a bunch of flying treasures. Moreover, if it wasn't for the fact that he didn't know how to ride a flying sword, he wouldn't have been a burden to June Emosia. The Almighty wasn't even interested in taking the flying boat. Thinking about this, Su Qing was even more determined to hug the Xiao Yao sect's thigh tightly. He could not neglect Shi Qing in the slightest. Just as he was thinking, Mu Yan, who was resting with her eyes closed, suddenly opens them and sits up. The little chick, who was dozing off on top of her, also opened its big round eyes and cried out in confusion, "Mommy, is it morning already? Have you eaten?" Mu Yan was both annoyed and amused as she rubbed its yellow hair. This stupid chick, apart from eating, sleeping and playing every day. Chapter 2347. Apart from that, it couldn't do anything else. The little phoenix caught it and taught it for so long, but it couldn't gather any spiritual power or demonic energy. It seems that it's doomed to be a useless chicken that eats and waits for death for the rest of its life. Mayan doesn't pay attention to the little yellow chicken that's rubbing against her, begging to be petted and fed. She looks down, her brows slightly wrinkling. "Great God, what's wrong?" Su Qing asks nervously. Mayan's consciousness moves, and the airship quickly descends. As the airship approaches the ground, Su Qing finally notices the movement below. He sees that in the dense jungle of the Tianshan Mountains, there are two groups of people chasing each other. On the fleeing side, there's only a young man and a teenager, and the spiritual power fluctuations around them are extremely thin. On the other side, there are more than a dozen brawny men, and each of them has a higher cultivation than the two fleeing people. The two black-clothed men are extremely rare gold cores in the blue cloud world. As the brawny men jump through the jungle, the distance between the two sides is getting closer and closer. Just when Su Qing thinks that the two people are about to be caught, there's a sudden light under the young man's feet, and then the two people disappear, reappearing a kilometer away. Su Qing's eyes widen in surprise. What's going on? These two people's cultivation is clearly so low, but just now, was that teleportation? Interesting. Mayan chuckles, and with a thought, the seven absolutes sword appears under her feet. "You slowly descend with the airship, I'll go take a look first." Saying that, without waiting for Su Qing to react, Mayan's figure has already whistled out, flying towards the two fleeing people. Almost as soon as Mayan flies into the jungle and lands on the treetops, the brawny men behind her once again approach. "Brother Bai Yang, don't worry about me." The young man's tender and trembling voice comes from below. As long as you don't take me, the burden of the transmission array will be much smaller. You'll definitely be able to escape. No, I promised old Joe that I would protect you thoroughly. Mayan glances through the branches and leaves. She finds that the youth is about 12 or 13 years old, but his figure is extremely thin. Moreover, his complexion and lips are pale. The blazing sun is clearly in the sky, but his body can't stop trembling. And the young man protecting him has a slender figure. One hand was holding onto the youth tightly, while the other was hanging down emptily. Obviously, he only had one arm. When the young man turns his head to face Mu Yen suddenly raises her eyebrows. When she heard Big Brother by Yang, she felt that it sounded familiar. Now, she was even more certain that she had seen this young man before. Back then, the Unfettered Seven had crossed the Tianxian mountain range and headed towards the Starry School. Along the way, they met the Silver Moon Palace's disciples. The Silver Moon Palace disciples were arrogant and despotic, especially Huobiue. She actually dared to injure second senior brother. As a result, he was ruthlessly taught a lesson by Mu Yen. At that time, there was only one person in the Silver Moon Palace who had been trying to dissuade Huobiue. That was why when Qin Jiao took revenge, she let him off. Mu Yen heard Huobiue call him Bai Yang. It was the young man in front of him. However, this Bai Yang was not a Silver Moon Palace disciple. Why was he here? Furthermore, he had lost an arm and was being chased around in a sorry state. As Mu Yen is curious, the pursuers behind her are getting closer and closer. Bai Yang hurriedly took out a formation plate and threw it on the ground. The formation plate shone brightly and enveloped Bai Yang and the young man. Mayan's expression becomes more and more strange. Who would have thought that this inconspicuous young man, who looked weak, was actually hiding his strength? Chapter 2348. In 1 second, 800 mail signs small divided by TalksNet, wonderful pop-up window free reading. His attainments in formations were so high that even Mayan couldn't help but look at him. The formation plate that Bai Yang threw out was a short distance, irregular transportation formation. Don't underestimate the distance that this transportation formation could transport. Judging from the level of the formation, it could only be considered 3rd or 4th grade at most. But this kind of formation plate could be sold for a very high price on the market. It was because this kind of formation didn't require much spiritual power, but the communication and fusion of the runes was extremely complicated. Even a 5th grade formation master or above might not be able to do it. And this Bai Yang was only at the 2nd level of Anidia, but he could use these formation plates as if they were part of his body. It was obvious that he had refined these formation plates himself. However, after this formation plate was thrown out, the light flickered for a while, then quickly extinguished. The depletion of spiritual power caused a stabbing pain in Bai Yang's dantian. The activation of the formation was interrupted midway. He panicked and hurriedly tried to activate it again. But it was only a short delay, and the people behind him were already very close. Bang! The leader of the black-clothed men fiercely kicked Bai Yang, sending him flying. Run! You should keep running. Little bastard, you dare to play tricks under the eyes of the Raging Flame School? You must be tired of living. Damn it, we've been chasing you for so long, almost half of the Tianxian Mountains. This time, if I don't skin these 2 little bastards, I won't be able to dispel the hatred in my heart. The brawny men's faces were full of anger. They surrounded Bai Yang and the youth, punching and kicking them. Bai Yang gritted his teeth and held the youth in his arms, using his own body to protect him. The youth in Bai Yang's arms whimpered, tears flowing down his cheeks. He struggled to get out of Bai Yang's embrace, but Bai Yang held him tightly, not willing to let go. Enough. Let's get down to business. This kind of ant needs to be crushed to death. We need to quickly bring this little bastard back to report. The leader of the black-clothed men ordered. The brawny men immediately stopped. One of them pulled out a long blade, about to slash at Bai Yang. However, the blade hadn't touched Bai Yang's body. There was a clang. The saber seemed to have been hit by something. The force of the impact was so great that the burly man could not hold it steady. The long saber flew out and hit his own head. Ah! It was clearly the back of the saber that had smashed into the burly man, but a bloody wound had actually appeared on his forehead. His eyes were wide open as he fell backward stiffly. "Who are you?" The two leading men in black shouted angrily. "Who's sneaking up behind us? Get out here right now." As soon as he finished speaking, there was another dang sound, followed by a mournful scream. The second man fell to the ground. This time, the saber in his hand was not unsheathed. There was no blood on his forehead, but there was a bloody hole. Embedded within the bloody hole was an ordinary pine cone. Zhang Quan and Wang Fei looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. A pine cone could smash through the head of a high-level Inidia cultivator and kill him instantly. His strength was at least at the Golden Core stage. Both of them were Golden Core stage cultivators. In this small azure cloud world, they did not care about anyone at all. But now, there was a hint of seriousness on their faces. They looked around nervously and said in a low voice, "Our Ziyun Realm's Raging Flame sect is working in the Sky Jade Mountain range. We accidentally disturbed you. Please forgive us, fellow Taoist." Chapter 2349. In 1 second, 800 mail signs small divided by Talksnet, wonderful pop-up window free reading. Ziyunjie's Raging Flame sect? A sweet voice, like the sounds of nature, slowly resounds. Isn't Raging Flame sect from Qingyunjie? Following the voice, a graceful blue figure descends from the sky. Zhang Quan, Wang Fei, the dozen or so brawny men by Yang and the youth, stare at this scene, completely dumbfounded. Sunlight spills through the crisscrossing branches and leaves, falling on the girl's face, casting a scattered shadow. It's obviously a mottled shadow, but it doesn't damage the girl's icy skin and jade-like bones. Zhang Quan and Wang Fei suck in a mouthful of cold air. Their tone softens a bit. "May I know the young lady's name?" "We are." Mu Yan lightly tosses the pine cone in her hand, and without waiting for them to finish speaking, she suddenly throws it. Bang 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 bang. 4 consecutive sounds, and the 4 brawny men don't even have time to make a sound. They all suck in a breath and die. Zhang Quan's fawning smile stiffens on his face. He sees the corner of Mu Yan's mouth curl up slightly, and she says unhurriedly, "I'm sorry, I'm not a very patient person, and I'm especially not interested in listening to nonsense. So, can you please answer my question and don't talk nonsense?" Boo. The infatuation on Wang Fei's face completely disappears, and he flies into a rage. "Smelly woman, do you know who we are? We're cultivators of Ziyunjie. Offend us, you Flustered and exasperated curses turn into painful groans in an instant. Wang Fei's mouth is wide open, a pine cone in his mouth, and a large amount of blood overflows from the corner of his mouth. And the expression on his face completely changes from arrogance to pain and panic. Mu Yan's cold gaze sweeps over everyone. "It seems that you don't understand human language. Since that's the case, I think there's no need to live as humans." Zhang Quan's eyes widen in horror. "No?" Countless pine cones fly out from Mu Yan's hand. Su Qing disembarks from the flying boat, looking at the scene in front of him, and his entire person is stupefied. What happened? Didn't he just come down a bit late? Wasn't it less than half a cup of tea's time? No, absolutely not. But why were there corpses all over the ground? Su Qing looked at Mayan, then looked at the dumbfounded by Yang and the youth, and then looked at Zhang Quan and Wang Fei, who were scared out of their wits. Gulp. He breathed a sigh of relief. Oh my God! How much time had passed? "Junimo Xie, you're going on a killing spree?" Su Qing cautiously walks to Mu Yan's side. Without saying a word, he respectfully stands behind her. Mu Yan doesn't pay any attention to him. She indifferently looks at Zhang Quan and Wang Fei, who are so scared that they can't stand up. A smile as bright and beautiful as the morning sun bloomed on her beautiful face. "Now, can you answer my question properly?" Zhang Quan and Wang Fei nodded frantically, not daring to hide anything anymore. From their narration, Mu Yan found out that the Raging Flame School was indeed divided into 2. In the Ziyun realm, it could be considered a 3rd or 4th-rate sect. The one in the Azure Cloud world was only a branch of the Raging Inferno sect. His main responsibility was to find talented disciples in the Green Cloud domain and the Min Lu domain, expand the Purple Cloud domain's power, and earn spar. This was also a method that some of the unranked sects in the Purple Cloud domain would often use in order to maintain their livelihood. But generally speaking, the cultivators of the main division would disdain coming to the Azure Cloud domain, a lower realm with murky spiritual qi. If that's the case, then what are you doing here? Zhang Quan and Wang Fei look at each other, then they point at the youth in Bai Yang's arms. We're here on the orders of the Hall Master to capture this kid. Chapter 2350. Oh, who is he? The two shook their heads. You don't know? Mu Yen raised her eyebrows. Then what else do you know? If you don't know anything, then there's no point for me to keep you. The two who were about to continue shaking their heads were scared out of their wits. No, don't kill us. Although we don't know the reason, but Hall Master Kai knows. He's in the Raging Flame sect of the Qingyun world. We can take you to him. Mu Yen didn't look at the two who were scared out of their wits, but looked at Bai Yang and the youth. Bai Yang looked at Mu Yen in a daze, his eyes filled with confusion and thought. Suddenly he had a flash of inspiration and exclaimed, You're the one in the forest that day. In reality, that incident happened a long time ago. At that time, Bai Yang's attention was focused on Hua Biue and Qin Jiao, and he didn't look at Mu Yan's appearance. So, he didn't recognize her at first. But Mu Yan's appearance was too beautiful, and an ordinary person would have a deep impression of her with just a glance. So, when Mu Yen approached, Bai Yang finally remembered. Aren't you a disciple of the Silver Feather Palace? Why are you in the Qingyun world? Hearing the words, Silver Feather Palace, Bai Yang's expression darkened. He told her how he wanted to save Hua Biue, but was used as a shield by Hua Biue, and got his arm bitten off. Bai Yang gave a self-deprecating, bitter smile. My talent was not good, and my cultivation base was low. After losing an arm, I became even more useless. So, the Silver Feather Palace sent me back to the Bai family. But the Bai Yang's parents had passed away long ago. He was able to enter the Silver Feather Palace because his father had helped the deputy palace master of the Silver Feather Palace. The Bai family treated him differently because he was a disciple of the Silver Feather Palace. Once he was cooked, those people immediately changed their attitude and banished him from the Bai family. Bai Yang didn't know what happened. He didn't want others to know about this. And he and the girl in front of him were just acquaintances. But under her questioning, he unknowingly said what he had hidden in his heart for a long time. After leaving the Bai family, I had nowhere to go. All my belongings were robbed, and I was seriously injured. I thought I was going to die. Bai Yang remembered himself lying in a pile of cold garbage at that time. A putrid stench entered their nostrils bit by bit. Extreme pain and despair slowly bred hatred in their hearts. Ever since he was young, his parents had taught him to be kind to others and to be open and aboveboard. He wanted to be a good person. He was honest and kind. He saved his fellow disciples, but what did he get in return? But just as Bai Yang's life was being taken away bit by bit and his heart was being corroded by hatred, someone passed by and saved him. That person is Elder Zhou of the Raging Flame sect. A grateful smile appeared on Bai Yang's face. Not only did Elder Zhou take me in, he didn't mind the fact that I lost an arm, and he even taught me his array techniques. At this point, tears suddenly flowed from his eyes, and he looked at Zhang Quan and Wang Fei with hatred. But these bastards are unwilling to let such a good person go. Before Bai Yang could finish, the young man next to him was already sobbing. It's me who hurt Elder Zhou. Mr. Zhou died to protect me. And my mom, she still hasn't come back. Boo. Chapter 2351. As the youth wept, he suddenly trembled and fell heavily. His entire body trembled violently, frost forming on his eyebrows and hair. Little Shin, are you all right? Bai Yang rushed over nervously. Are you sick again? Medicine, you have to take your medicine immediately. He touched it and his expression changed. Not good, there's no more spirit fire pills. Mayan's mind spun with the words, "Little Shun," as she slowly walked over to the youth and grabbed his hand to feel his pulse. As soon as the youth's pulse appeared before her eyes, she knew that her suspicions were confirmed. "Mommy, mommy, mommy, don't leave Shun, don't." The youth trembled as he cried. Tears flowed down from his eyes, but they immediately froze into frost. He looked indescribably pitiful. Miss, please save little Shen. Just one spirit fire pill will be enough." Bai Yang begged. Mayan shook her head. He was hit by an ice attack from a leaving aperture stage cultivator. The cold poison has accumulated in his body, and ordinary medicine can't remove it. Even a spirit fire pill can only treat the symptoms and not the root cause. Bai Yang was about to say something, but Mayan smiled reassuringly at him. "But I have a way to completely cure him." With that, she flipped her wrist and a fiery red spirit herb that looked like both a flower and a leaf appeared in her palm. The youth's eyes widened at the sight of the spirit herb. Even though his body was suffering from the cold poison, he still screamed, "Fire orchid." Mommy said that the fire orchid can only be found in the woodfern's secret realm. The youth stared at Mayan. "You? How did you get a fire orchid? Have you been to the woodfern's secret realm?" He stretched out his ice-cold hands and tugged at Mayan's sleeves. Did you see a woman in the secret realm?" Mayan didn't wait for the youth to finish, whispering, "She's called Cheng Mei. She's your mommy, right?" "You know my mommy. You really know my mommy." The youth jumped up in excitement, his eyes shining brightly. "Where is mommy now? Did you see her?" Mayan's eyes flashed with pity, her voice softening. "Your mommy told me to bring this fire orchid to you." "What about my mommy?" "I'll first use the fire leaf orchid to suppress your cold poison, then I'll tell you, okay?" The youth's eyes were filled with anxiety, but the cold poison was acting up, making it difficult for him to even breathe. His entire body was stiff and cold, and his hearing and vision were gradually fading. In the end, he has no choice but to give up asking about Cheng Mei's whereabouts and accept Mayan's treatment. Bai Yang stared blankly at Mu Yen as she took out a pot and placed the fire leaf orchid inside. Then she added a lot of elixirs into the pot. This was clearly not alchemy. Su Qing and Bai Yang were dumbfounded. The fire orchid is extremely precious. How could Mayan casually cook it as soup? Soon, a bowl of thick soup was boiled out. Mu Yen directly poured it down the youth's throat. The sour and bitter taste made the youth frown and almost vomit the medicine out. However, a few of his acupuncture points were sealed by Mayan, and he was unable to budge. Bai Yang looked at the young man suffering and paced around anxiously. He wanted to stop and help, but he did not dare to speak. However, after a quarter of an hour, the hoarfrost on the youth's body began to recede. His ice-cold body gradually warmed up. He opened his eyes in a daze and tried to circulate his spiritual power. He discovered that his dantian no longer felt as if it was frozen solid. Chapter 2352. Genius? 1 second. Remember, I can circulate my spiritual power. I can finally circulate my spiritual power again. The youngster excitedly jumps up from the ground and fiercely punches. A fireball ruthlessly smashes into the ground along with his fist. The air is filled with leaping fire elements and spiritual power fluctuations. Mu Yen inexplicably feels that this kind of fluctuation is somewhat familiar. The youngster rushes over and hugs Bai Yang, crying and laughing at the same time. "Brother Bai Yang, did you see that? I can cultivate. The cold poison in my body has been cured. I'm finally not a good for nothing. In the future, I can also protect you." Bai Yang is bewildered by the youngster's crying. He keeps shouting, "That's great, little Shun, that's great." When the two of them are done crying, they both turn to Mu Yen and thank her. The youngster directly falls to his knees and says in a hoarse voice, "Many thanks to Senior for saving my life. May I ask for Senior's great name? In the future, if there's anything you need me to do, I will go through water and tread on fire without hesitation." They can't tell Mu Yan's age and cultivation, but it's obvious that her strength is far stronger than theirs, even stronger than Zhang Quan and Wang Fei, who are at the core formation stage. So the youngster thinks that she's already a very old senior, and that she's only using a technique to preserve her youth because of her profound cultivation. Mu Yen gently shakes her head. I said, the fire orchid was picked by your mother at the cost of her life. I'm just giving it to you on her behalf. The youngster stares blankly at first, then his eyes suddenly widen, and his body uncontrollably trembles. You mean my mother, she's already… Mu Yen gently nods. No, I don't believe it. Mother said that she wouldn't leave me. You lied to me. You lied to me. He lunges at Mu Yen like a madman. My mother must still be alive. Did you hide her? Did you? Little Shin, you can't? However, the youngster's hand hasn't even touched Mu Yen when he's thrown over his shoulder and ruthlessly to the ground. Mu Yen steps on his chest and looks down at him from above. Her eyes are cold. Your mama went through countless hardships and dangers, and even sacrificed her life to find the fire orchid for you. She did this to let you live well, and not to let you be like a coward who only knows how to give up on yourself and escape from reality. Tears flowed down the cheeks of the young man. He could not hold it in any longer and cried bitterly. He kept shouting, Mummy? Mummy. This time, Mu Yen and Bai Yang didn't say anything. They just let him vent as much as he wanted. When the youngster's crying stops, he looks at Mayan with reddened eyes. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have vented my anger on you. Senior, may I ask where my mother's body is? Is she buried in the Woodfern's secret realm? Mu Yen shook her head and said, I brought Cheng Mei's body out of the secret plane and buried it in the graveyard at the back of the Starry School. If you want, you can pay your respects at any time. The youth's eyes, which had been washed by water, suddenly lit up. He knelt before Mu Yen again, this time even more sincerely than when Mu Yen had saved him. Benefactor, please tell me your name. I will never forget your great kindness to my mother and I, Chang Shen, for the rest of my life. If there's a chance in the future, I will definitely repay you. However, Mu Yen did not hear the rest of his words. She was stunned for a moment. What did you say your name was? What's your surname? This lowly one's surname is Chang, and his name is Chang Shen. Chapter 2353. Raging Flame School. Chang Shen, he's actually a spirit cultivator. Looking at his spiritual power fluctuations, it should be related to the Raging Flame School. Mu Yan's eyes suddenly widen. She finally remembers why the Raging Flame School sounds familiar to her. In the Yenwu continent, when Chang Yu died in order to save her, the person who killed him once said those words. She only knew at that time. The man she rescued from the Wan Rin Ku, the captain of the Ink camp, the taciturn man who was willing to die for her, wasn't someone from the Yenwu continent. He came from the Xiuzhen continent and was a spirit cultivator. And the sect he belonged to on the Xiuzhen continent was precisely the Raging Flame School. Mu Yan's hands, hanging at her sides, couldn't stop trembling. Before her eyes, it seems like the scene of Chang Yu covered in blood, the dying lamp in her arms. In her ears, it seems like Chang Yu's dying words are still echoing. Miss, I don't care what my past is, I only know that from the moment you took me away from Wan Rin Ku as Chang Yu, you were everything to me. I'm willing to give everything to keep you safe for even a moment. Since then, Mu Yan's heart has been filled with guilt towards Chang Yu. She also thought that in this life, she would never have the chance to repay his kindness of protecting her. However, the affairs of the world are so unpredictable. Perhaps, Chang Yu's spirit in heaven is giving her the opportunity to repay him? Mu Yan takes a deep breath, holding Chang Shen's shoulder, and says in a hoarse voice, Do you know Chang Yu? Chang Shen stares blankly. After a long while, he murmurs, Chang Yu, Gij Yu, how do you know my Gij's name? He died a long time ago when I was very, very young. Mu Yan's heart suddenly trembles, and she is about to ask in detail. Su Qing suddenly shouts from the side, Great God Jun, it's not good, those two thieves are running away. Mu Yan turns her head to look, and sure enough, she sees that Zhang Quan and Wang Fei have broken the ropes at some point. Like the wind and lightning, they flee in a sorry state towards the depths of the jungle. Neither of them can fly on a sword, but they are still core formation cultivators. That speed is extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, they have almost disappeared into the jungle. Not good. Bai Yang and Changshan both exclaimed, they'll definitely inform Hall Master Kai when they get back. Even the headquarters of Blazing Flame School will send people over. The corner of Mu Yan's mouth hooks up, and there's not the slightest bit of anxiety on her face. With a flick of his wrist, the Tian Mo Chin appears. The sound of the zither rang out, like a powerful army. In the blink of an eye, the two of them let out a blood-curdling scream and fell from the treetops. Mu Yan wasn't in a hurry at all. She brought Bai Yang and the others with her and slowly walked up to the two. It seems like you really want to die. Zhang Quan and Wang Fei's faces were ashen as they shook their heads repeatedly. No, don't kill us. We won't dare to do it again. We're willing to bring you to Hall Master Kai. Mayan sneered at Bai Yang and said slowly, do you know the way to the Raging Flame Gate? Bai Yang nodded blankly. Do you know the Hall Master Kai they are talking about? Bai Yang nodded again. Mayan chuckles and looks at Zhang Quan and Wang Fei. You see, it seems like you don't need to lead the way. Moreover, you've already wasted the opportunity one gave you. Zhang Quan's face was filled with alarm and fear, and he couldn't help but curse, you can't kill us. If you kill us, you will thoroughly offend the Raging Flame School. Our master is an expert at the leaving aperture stage. If you offend our Raging Flame School, you won't have a good end. Chapter 2354. Vicious Reputation. Female Demon, please let go. 1. Changshan's face paled. He grabbed Mu Yan's hand and said in a trembling voice, the current head of the Raging Flame School, Yu Guangchuan, has a very high cultivation. He's a despicable person who will seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Whoever offends him, he'll destroy their family and kill them, and they'll die without a burial place. Senior, please don't worry about us, or you'll be implicated by us. Zhang Quan and Wang Fei couldn't help but look proud. Bitch, did you hear that? You'll die a horrible death if you offend the Raging Flame School. If you know what's good for you, let us go immediately. When the time comes, we'll beg the head of the school. Maybe he'll see you and not punish you, but make you his concubine. Zhang Quan's words filled Bai Yang and Changshan with indignation. Su Qing couldn't help but smirk, almost laughing out loud. Is this guy an idiot? A mere head of the Raging Flame School wants God Jun to be his concubine? Doesn't he know that the Heaven Gen sect, which was much stronger than the Raging Flame School, was almost destroyed by God Jun? Out-of-body stage? So what if he's in the out-of-body stage? As if God Jun didn't kill an out-of-body stage cultivator in the Woodfern's secret realm. Su Qing couldn't help but laugh at the thought. Zhang Quan and Wang Fei were originally enjoying Bai Yang and Changshan's panicked expressions, feeling proud and relieved. They were waiting for Mu Yan to release them and apologize to them. Now that they saw Su Qing laughing, they couldn't help but say angrily, what are you laughing at? Zhang Quan and Wang Fei were both golden core cultivators. Their cultivation levels were much higher than Su Qing's. But Su Qing looked down at them with contempt. I'm laughing at you frogs in a well. Don't you know who you've offended? What a joke. Zhang Quan sneered, she's just a bitch. At most, she's a peak golden core cultivator. Maybe she's stronger than us, but against our head, she can only be crushed. Not to mention the sect master, even Hall Master Kai, who was currently in charge of the Azure Cloud world, was also a nascent soul expert. Who do you think you are? A mere golden core cultivator wants to compete with the Raging Flame School? Zhang Quan was arrogant, but Wang Fei was much calmer than him. When he saw that Mu Yan was still so relaxed after hearing about the Raging Flame School's strength, he couldn't help but feel a little apprehensive. Miss, may I know your name? Which sect did he come from? If you're from the Purple Cloud realm, you might have some connections with my Raging Flame sect. We're fellow cultivators, so there's no need for us to become enemies because of a few lowly slaves. Wang Fei was worried that Mu Yan had a family background, and that she might even be a disciple of a sect in the Ziyun realm. Otherwise, how could this young girl be so arrogant? She clearly knew their identity and background, yet she still casually shouted to kill them? The corners of Mayan's mouth slowly raised into an evil arc, unhurriedly saying, No, my sect is in the blue cloud world. Hearing this, Wang Fei heaved a sigh of relief. Zhang Quan laughed wildly. A lowly servant from the blue cloud world dares to be so arrogant in front of my raging flame sect. Before his laughter died away, he heard Mu Yen slowly spit out the second half of the sentence. My name is Jun Mu Yen, and I come from the green cloud world's Xiaoyao school. The laughter came to an abrupt end. Zhang Quan's arrogant expression froze on his face in an instant. Wang Fei slightly opened his mouth, the expression on his face between relaxation, disdain, shock, and bewilderment. Then, as his brain slowly digested this information, his face completely distorted, turning into extreme fright and disbelief. Chapter 2355. Infamous. Female devil, please let me go, too, We're Jun Mayan? The alluring killer Lord Mayan. Zhang Quan and Wang Fei were both scared out of their wits. Even Bai Yang and Chang Shen widened their eyes. Chang Shen's knees buckled, and he almost fell to the ground. You're Jun Mayan? No, impossible. How could you be Jun Mayan? Wang Fei shook his head desperately, but the description of the alluring killer lord in his mind became clearer and clearer. The youthful face of a young girl. The beauty that could topple cities. The coldness and ruthlessness of a one-hit kill. In battle, she always had a guqin or a crystal-clear sword in her hand. It matched. All the characteristics matched up. The girl in front of him was really the female demon, Jun Mayan. Zhang Quan, who had been insolent a moment ago, was now scared out of his wits, his entire body trembling. His bound hands kept rubbing against the ground, trying to crawl back. Wang Fei's lips trembled for a long time before he could speak. God Jun. Seeing their appearance, Mu Yen raises her eyebrows in surprise. Such a big reaction? Forget about the people from the Qingyun and Azure realms. The unfettered seven demons. The unfettered seven's reputation had indeed spread far and wide. This could be seen on their way back to the Starry School. But in the Purple Cloud realm, their reputation shouldn't have spread far and wide. Only those who had watched the Deer Cry Grand Banquet and the cultivators of Divine Elephant City should have heard of them. Mu Yen had no idea of the terrifying achievements of the unfettered three demons in the Woodfern Secret Realm. They had already swept through the entire Purple Cloud realm like a hurricane. With just the three of them, they had completely overturned the Heaven Jian sect. They had even killed the heir of the Shui clan, a first-rate clan of the southern continent. But they had escaped safely. The Heaven Jian sect had fallen from a second-rate clan to a third-rate clan overnight. The Shui clan had lost their heir, but they had swallowed it down and not caused trouble for them. Since the Woodfern Secret Realm's appearance, they had never seen or even heard of such a feat. The cultivators who had survived the Woodfern Secret Realm had witnessed how Mu Yen had single-handedly killed an astral projection cultivator. The disciples of the Heaven Jian sect and the Shui family, who had once chased after her, were all scared witless. Moreover, her titles of fatally beautiful killing god and she-devil had spread like wildfire. This was especially true for those second- and third-rate sects that were weaker than the Heaven Jian sect. They had taught their disciples that they could offend anyone but the Xiaoyao sect. The Raging Flame School was also a third-rate school in the Ziyun realm. How could they not know Mayan's name? No, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Zhang Quan suddenly screamed. Ignoring the restraints on his hands, he turned around and ran. However, before he could take 2 steps, he heard the sound of a zither. Countless swords pierced through his body, causing him to fall stiffly to the ground. Wang Fei was so scared that he fell to his knees and kowtowed to Mu Yen. God Jun, please spare my life. God Jun, please spare my life. This lowly one is willing to lead the way for you. This lowly one is willing to serve you faithfully. Please spare this lowly one's life. Seeing that his head was covered in blood and his face was covered in tears and snot, Mu Yen was too embarrassed to kill him. All right, if you want to lead the way so badly, then lead the way. Purple Cloud Realm, Phoenix Heavenly Mountain Range, next to the Refining God Cliff. There was a flash of light, and 2 figures staggered out of thin air. Before they could steady themselves, a bolt of purple lightning fell from the sky. Chapter 2356. Shin Musician Remnant. She's alive, just kill her. 1. Ah. The woman in front screams and falls to the ground, her body twitching uncontrollably. Behind her is a veiled woman, her face pale and weak. These two are Lung Qingwan and her disciple, who came to Xiuzhen from the Xiuxin continent through the space barrier. They see Leng Yuexia being punished by the divine thunder because she doesn't have a holy artifact to protect her. Lung Qingwan isn't worried. Instead, she shows a carefree expression. But she quickly restrains it. She puts on a concerned expression and helps Lung Qingwan up. Master, are you okay? Leng Yuexia wipes the blood from the corner of her mouth and slowly stands up. Her gaze sweeps around, her eyes flash with extreme disgust. Is this the Xiuxin continent, the lower realm where ants stay? Sure enough, the spiritual energy is mixed, and there isn't even the slightest bit of immortal energy. She doesn't want to stay a moment longer in this damned place. Master, what should we do next? Lung Qingwan asks cautiously. Leng Yuexia looks at her coldly. Idiot, do you still need to ask? Naturally, we have to determine whether that slut from the god musicians is dead or alive. As the two are talking, they suddenly hear footsteps coming from not far away. I really didn't expect that Heaven Jian sect would be completely annihilated in this Woodfern's secret realm expedition, and at the hands of a gold core stage woman at that. Heaven Jian sect suffered such a big loss. Are they willing to let it go? So what if they're unwilling to let it go? I heard that Jun Mayan has the support of a crossing tribulation stage expert. Even the Shui family's heir doesn't dare to act rashly. What can Heaven Jian sect do? In Leng Yuexia's eyes, the people of Xiuxin continent are the same as ants that she despises and loathes. She originally planned to kill them with a wave of her hand. Hearing their conversation, her pupils can't help but shrink. Lung Qingwan exclaims, Master, it's that slut. That slut's name is Jun Mayan. She's still alive, she's really still alive. Her voice is sharp and shrill, filled with anger and shock. How is this possible? She saw with her own eyes that the slut was struck to death by the divine thunder. Even she was injured. Why was she still alive? The corner of Leng Yuexia's mouth curled up into a sinister smile. What are you shouting for? You're just a piece of trash who can't do anything right. Living is living. He's just an ant from the lower realm. As long as he's alive, we can just kill him later. Lung Qingwan's eyes lit up when she heard Leng Yuexia's tone. Master, you're going to do it yourself. Leng Yuexia presses her still aching chest, but she is determined. The remnants of the Shin musicians, I will never allow them to live another day. She knows better than anyone else how tenacious and difficult it is to kill the Shin musicians. As long as they were given the slightest chance, they would rise from the ashes. At that time, Lung Qingwan, that idiot, wasn't able to get rid of this person because she was too careless and alerted the enemy. She would not make such a mistake. Even though her injuries had yet to fully recover, she had to give that lowly servant a thunderous blow to eliminate any future troubles. Lung Qingwan clenched her fists in excitement. As long as Jun Mayan is dead, she would be the only one left with such a peerless face. At that time, Jun Shang would certainly fall in love with her. No. She could make proper arrangements and assume Jun Mayan's identity. When she and Jun Shang cook rice and even give birth to a child, would she still be afraid that she wouldn't be able to obtain the identity of the mistress of the polar domain? Chapter 2357. Shen Musician Remnant. Alive, we can just kill them. 2. Asking for votes, suppressing the greed and desire in her heart, Lung Qingwan says, but the Xiuxin continent is so big, where are we going to find that slut? Leng Yuexia's line of sight looks at the male cultivators who have heard the commotion and come forward, the corners of her mouth revealing a grim smile. A quarter of an hour later, the eyes of those male cultivators turn white, lying on the ground, already covered with cuts and bruises. If there was a doctor here, he would be able to tell at a glance. These two people have been forcibly soul-searched, their souls directly crushed, that's why they died. Leng Yuexia kicks them away in disgust, saying in a low voice, "You go to the Bloodsword Gate first, and start making arrangements according to our agreement. I'll go to the Blue Cloud world now and kill that slut. As for how to find people in the Blue Cloud world, as long as she searches their souls one by one, she'll be able to find that slut's whereabouts. In their eyes, the people of the Xiozhen continent are nothing more than livestock and ants that they can trample and abuse at will. They don't need to care about their lives. Yes, master. Thinking of their plan, thinking that Jun Shang will soon be infatuated with her. Lung Qingwan's excited voice trembles. Disciple here wishes master a speedy success. When disciple and Jun Shang tie the knot and enter the polar domain, it will also be the day when Tian Yi Men will regain its glory. Blue Cloud World, Raging Flame Gate. In the main hall, singing and dancing celebrate peace. From time to time you can hear the laughter from inside, as well as the moans and cries of women. Kai Ji sits on the high seat, his hands rubbing the slender waist of a beautiful female cultivator, casually rubbing her body. That female cultivator is obviously unwilling, but because of fear she doesn't dare to resist. The people sitting below are even more absurd than Kai Ji. Some people have already directly pressed people to the ground, ignoring the female cultivator's cries for mercy, and have already begun to do that improper thing. The others were gulping down wine while enjoying the service of the beautiful female cultivators beside them. Hallmaster, this is the first time I know that in this Blue Cloud world, we can actually live such a happy life like a deity. Ah, yes, yes. In the Purple Cloud realm, there are people stronger than us everywhere. As long as we go out, we have to live with our tails between our legs. But in this Azure Cloud world, it is the complete opposite. Such beautiful women, we can play with as many as we want. When those sex and aristocratic families saw us, which one of them didn't offer up their most valuable treasures with both hands? Didn't you see how the old man from the Zhang family fawned over us? The moment he heard that we were from the Purple Cloud realm, he immediately offered his granddaughter to us. In my opinion, the original few female cultivators of the Raging Flame School are not bad. They are all very tender. I was too excited yesterday and accidentally broke one of them. Today, I must take it easy and play with them for at least 2 more days. The female cultivator, who was pouring wine for the few of them, could not help but tremble and accidentally poured the wine in her hand onto a fat male cultivator. The female cultivator was so scared that her face turned pale, and she said in a trembling voice, I didn't mean it, my lord, I'll wipe it for you. What? How could he give it to her just by wiping it? Squat down now and lick it clean for me. The place where the wine was wet happened to be on her crotch. The female cultivator's face was deathly pale, and she retreated again and again. This time, she finally angered the fat male cultivator. He ruthlessly kicked the female cultivator to the ground. I give you face, but you don't want it. It is your honor that I let you lick. Since you want to die, come, drag this slut away and feed her to the exploding flaming tiger outside. Sorry, the update at midnight will continue to be delayed. Recently the workload has been a bit heavy. I'll try to adjust it back this week. Chapter 2358. A shameless face. However, the Heaven Gen sect, which was so powerful in the Purple Cloud realm, had been easily destroyed by 3 people. The lofty leaving Aperture realm cultivator in their hearts was killed mercilessly by a young lady. One could imagine how much this news shocked the people of the Raging Flame sect. But if it was just shock, it would have been fine. But now they had provoked the demoness who destroyed the Heaven Gen sect. For a moment, the people of the Raging Flame sect were scared out of their wits. They wished they could pass out immediately. The people of the Qingyun realm were overjoyed. One by one, they knelt on the ground, their voices choked with joy. God Jun has come to save us. God Jun, you must punish these beasts for us. My junior sister was tortured to death by them. God Jun, I am from the Qin family of the Qingyun realm. My whole family admires you. Please send me home, great God Jun. And me, I am from the Li family. My family was persecuted by the Raging Flame sect. My father was seriously injured. Please save us and avenge us. Tearful complaints, accompanied by a bellyful of hatred and grievances, echoed in the hall. By Yang and Chang Shenlian remembered their own experience. Their eyes reddened. However, Mu Yen expressionlessly swept his gaze over everyone present, and said in a deep voice, "I am not here to save you, nor am I here to avenge you. In this world, don't think about relying on others. Instead of begging for redemption, it is better to find a way to become stronger. Others can save you for a while, but they can't save you forever." She had seen the scene in the hall just now. These people were humiliated, abused, and enslaved. But they only obeyed and obeyed. They didn't even have the slightest consciousness of resistance. Even if resistance could lead to death. But in this world where the strong preyed on the weak, they should understand that if they didn't have the courage to fight against the heavens, they could only hide their sharpness and live. Instead of crying and waiting for others to save them when they were in trouble. How can you do this?" A few female cultivators shouted unwillingly, "We worship you as our god, we worship you as our idol. You are the pride of our blue cloud world. Isn't it natural for you to save us?" "That's right. If you're really looking out for us, you should give us some medicinal pills and magical equipment to help us become stronger, shouldn't you?" The words of these female cultivators made Su Qing roll his eyes. Even Bai Yang and Chang Shen could not help but look disgusted. But there were also a few people who disagreed. Especially the female cultivator who was just dragged out to be fed to the explosive flaming tiger. It was only because of Mu Yan's timely rescue that she managed to escape from the tiger's jaws. Her heart was filled with gratitude and reverence for Mu Yan. She grabbed her skirt with both hands, mustered up her courage, and loudly said, "But Jun Immerse doesn't have any obligation to help us. We should be grateful that he can save our lives." Xiao Huan is right. Jun Immerse has already saved us by punishing these evil people. How can we ask for more? However, those female cultivators said as if it was a matter of course, Jun Mu Yen killed the higher-ups of the Raging Flame School, which is equal to offending the entire Raging Flame School. If she doesn't deal with the aftermath, we will be implicated. What's more, we worship her so much, we see her as our idol. How can she not help us? Su Qing was so angry at the shameless faces of these women that his whole body trembled. Chapter 2359. From now on, you will follow me. He can't help but reflect on himself. When he led the whole Guei sect to rob the Xiaoyao sect, was it also this disgusting? He steps forward and is about to speak, but is stopped by Mu Yen. Mu Yen doesn't even look at the female cultivators. Instead, she turns her wrist and the Tian Mo Qin appears in her hand. Her slender, jade-like fingers gently pluck the strings. As the melodious sound of the Qin reverberates in the room. Bang bang bang. One by one, the people in the hall begin to faint, falling into a deep sleep. But strangely, some people close their eyes, revealing a carefree and sweet smile on their faces. Some people close their eyes, revealing a frightened and pained expression. As for the disciples of the Raging Flame School, including Kai Ji, their faces are all distorted, their bodies convulsing and trembling. The most frightening thing is that their faces begin to age in a short period of time, their hair and teeth fall out little by little. Wrinkles cover their faces, the spiritual power around their bodies becomes thinner and thinner, and their breathing becomes more and more rapid, like broken bellows. In the entire hall, apart from Mu Yen, only Su Qing, Bai Yang, and Chang Shen are still awake. The three look at the scene of hell and heaven intertwining before them, and then look at the beautiful girl playing the qin leisurely. They can't help but shiver. Su Qing suddenly feels that the great god Jun and the Xiaoyao sect were too merciful in punishing him. Jun, great god Jun, what's wrong with them? Chang Shen can't help but ask. Mu Yen stops playing the qin, turns to look at Chang Shen, and reaches out to touch his head. Don't call me great god Jun, call me sister, or like your brother, call me Mississippi. Chang Shen stares at her, his eyes slowly becoming misty. Miss, Bai Yang Gij and I have no relatives. Can we follow you in the future? Bai Yang is also looking at Mu Yen eagerly. Mu Yan's voice is soft. You are Chang Yu's only relative in this world. Of course, I can't leave you alone. When things here are over, I will take you to see your brother's brothers. Later, You will be with them. They will take care of you, protect you, and help you become stronger. My brother's brothers? Changshen's eyes are bright. Miss, then I won't be alone in the future? Mu Yen smiles gently and nods. She then looked at Bai Yang. Bai Yang, your talent in arrays is the highest I've ever seen. Are you willing to follow me? Talented in arrays? Bai Yang pointed a finger at himself in disbelief. Junimosye, are you sure you're not mistaken? My cultivation is only at the second stage of abstinence, and I'm a cripple with a broken arm. No, cultivation and talent in formations are two different things. Mayan shakes her head. It's precisely because your cultivation is so low that you're even missing a hand, yet you're able to refine such a unique array disc. That's why I say that your talent in arrays is unparalleled. I will send you to a place where you can use your talents and work for me in the future. Are you willing? Bai Yang's lips were trembling with excitement, but he still glanced at Changshen. Is she with little Shen? Changshen also looked over nervously. It was obvious that he did not want to be separated from Big Brother Bai Yang at all. Mu Yen couldn't help but laugh. Of course. From now on, you should address me like Changshen does. Don't call me God Jun, yes, miss? Bai Yang cheered and happily hugged Changshen. Chapter 2360. Jun Mayan, are you a devil? Asking for votes. Changshen shows his first sincere smile after hearing the news of Cheng Mei's death. The way the two of them were cheering and jumping for joy was exactly like children. Mu Yen shakes her head and laughs. Su Qing is full of envy. It's obvious that God Jun has taken a liking to these two people and accepted them as his own people. He doesn't know where God Jun will arrange for them, but in any case, the future of these two people will be limitless. Mu Yen naturally wants to arrange for Changshen and Bai Yang to join the Nether Flame Army. Changshen is Qian Yu's only relative. Mu Yen has wronged Qian Yu, and she wants to compensate Changshen. And Bai Yang's talent in arrays is a talent that the everlasting camp urgently needs. Moreover, this young man is kind-hearted and knows how to repay kindness. For a promise, a little kindness, he doesn't hesitate to sacrifice his life. It's Jun Mayan's luck that the Nether Flame Army can recruit such a person. Right at this moment, a series of pa-pa-poch sounds began to come from the main hall. Su Qing and the others look over and see that the heads of the Raging Flame School disciples have exploded. In the blink of an eye, Kai Ji is the only living disciple of the Raging Flame School. God Jun, this is? Mu Yen smiles. It's nothing, just letting them experience hundreds and thousands of nightmarish reincarnations in a dream. The vitality in their bodies is exhausted little by little, and their souls are gradually gnawed away. Finally, they can't bear the torture and choose to self-destruct. Of course, because their spiritual power and profound qi have been exhausted, even if they self-destruct, it won't set off any storm. At most, their brains will splatter everywhere. After her Shin musician rose to the 7th level, her floating like a dream has also been upgraded. Under the cover of the sound of the zither, as long as the floating like a dream is under the effect of the floating like a dream, the things that leave a deep impression in their memories will be exposed to Mu Yen. Almost at the moment when floating like a dream is launched, she knows what kind of heartless evil these people have done. Therefore, Mu Yen did not hesitate to punish these people, letting them experience the pain that others have endured in their nightmares, and then die miserably in despair. With the self-destruction of the Raging Flame School disciples, the others in the hall also woke up. Their reactions were also different. The female cultivator named Xiao Huan and the people around her were pleasantly surprised. They had just had a beautiful dream, and when they woke up, they found that not only were their injuries healed, but their cultivation had also improved. On the other hand, the female cultivators who were aggressive towards Mu Yen were all panicking and uneasy. They looked at Mu Yen as if they were looking at a devil. Mu Yen raised the corner of her lips and looked at them with a smile that was not a smile. How about it? Do you still need me to save you now? No, don't. We won't do it again. Demon King, no. Great God Jun, spare my life, ah. Scared witless, these people ran out of the place. Just now, those righteous words, feeling that it was a matter of course for Mu Yen to help them, have long since vanished. They probably never wanted to see the god they worshipped ever again. Mu Yen didn't bother with them anymore. She cleaned up the hall. In the end, only a half-dead Kaiji was left. As the sound of the zither rang out, Kaiji's body twitched violently, and he slowly opened his eyes. The first thing that came into view was a face that was as beautiful as frost and snow, a face that could outshine the moon and put flowers to shame. Ao ao ao, I've received a piece of good news. The exhausted Az desperately wrote one more chapter. I thank all the readers for their support and love for Az. I love you guys, mua mua. Chapter 2361. From now on, you will follow me. He can't help but reflect on himself. When he led the whole Guei sect to rob the Xiaoyao sect, was it also this disgusting? He steps forward and is about to speak, but is stopped by Mu Yen. Mu Yen doesn't even look at the female cultivators. Instead, she turns her wrist and the Tian Mo Qin appears in her hand. Her slender, jade-like fingers gently pluck the strings. As the melodious sound of the qin reverberates in the room. Bang bang bang. One by one, the people in the hall begin to faint, falling into a deep sleep. But strangely, some people close their eyes, revealing a carefree and sweet smile on their faces. Some people close their eyes, revealing a frightened and pained expression. As for the disciples of the Raging Flame School, including Kaiji, their faces are all distorted, their bodies convulsing and trembling. The most frightening thing is that their faces begin to age in a short period of time, their hair and teeth fall out little by little. Wrinkles cover their faces, the spiritual power around their bodies becomes thinner and thinner, and their breathing becomes more and more rapid, like broken bellows. In the entire hall, apart from Mu Yen, only Su Qin, Bai Yang, and Changshen are still awake. The three look at the scene of hell and heaven intertwining before them, and then look at the beautiful girl playing the qin leisurely. They can't help but shudder. Su Qing suddenly feels that the great god Jun and the Xiaoyao sect were too merciful in punishing him. Jun, great god Jun, what's wrong with them? Changshen can't help but ask. Mu Yen stops playing the qin, turns to look at Changshen, and reaches out to touch his head. Don't call me great god Jun, call me sister, or like your brother, call me Mississippi. Changshen stares at her, his eyes slowly becoming misty. Miss, Bai Yang Gij and I have no relatives. Can we follow you in the future? Bai Yang is also looking at Mu Yen eagerly. Mu Yan's voice is soft. You are Chang Yu's only relative in this world. Of course, I can't leave you alone. When things here are over, I will take you to see your brother's brothers. Later, you will be with them. They will take care of you, protect you, and help you become stronger. My brother's brothers? Changshen's eyes are bright. Miss, then I won't be alone in the future? Mu Yen smiles gently and nods. She then looked at Bai Yang. Bai Yang, your talent in arrays is the highest I've ever seen. Are you willing to follow me? Talented in arrays? Bai Yang pointed a finger at himself in disbelief. Junimo Xie, are you sure you're not mistaken? My cultivation is only at the second stage of abstinence, and I'm a cripple with a broken arm. No, cultivation and talent in formations are two different things. Mayan shakes her head. It's precisely because your cultivation is so low that you're even missing a hand, yet you're able to refine such a unique array disc. That's why I say that your talent in arrays is unparalleled. I will send you to a place where you can use your talents and work for me in the future. Are you willing? Bai Yang's lips were trembling with excitement, but he still glanced at Changshen. Is she with little Shen? Changshen also looked over nervously. It was obvious that he did not want to be separated from Big Brother Bai Yang at all. Mu Yen couldn't help but laugh. Of course. From now on, you should address me like Changshen does. Don't call me God Jun, yes, miss? Bai Yang cheered and happily hugged Changshen. /txt/83530/ _Baidu search for the UC Book League website, allowing you to experience the latest and fastest chapters, all of which are updated in seconds. Chapter 2362. June Mayan, are you a devil? Asking for votes, Changshan shows his first sincere smile after hearing the news of Cheng Mei's death. The way the two of them were cheering and jumping for joy was exactly like children. Mu Yan shakes her head and laughs. Su Qing's face was full of envy. It was obvious that Jun Mo Xie had taken a liking to these two and had taken them in as his own people. He doesn't know where God Jun will arrange for them, but in any case, the future of these two people will be limitless. Mu Yan naturally wants to arrange for Changshen and Bai Yang to join the Nether Flame Army. Changshen is Qian Yu's only relative. Mu Yan has wronged Qian Yu, and she wants to compensate Changshen. And Bai Yang's talent in arrays is a talent that the Everlasting Camp urgently needs. Moreover, this young man is kind-hearted and knows how to repay kindness. For a promise, a little kindness, he doesn't hesitate to sacrifice his life. It is Jun Mayan's fortune that the Nether Flame Army can recruit such a person. Just then, there is a pa-pa-poch sound coming from the hall. Su Qing and the others look and see that the heads of the Raging Flame School disciples have exploded. In a flash, Kai Ji is the only one left alive among the Raging Flame School disciples. God Jun, this is? Mu Yan smiles. It's nothing, just letting them experience hundreds of nightmarish reincarnations in a dream. The vitality in their bodies is exhausted little by little, and their souls are gradually gnawed away. Finally, they can't bear the torture and choose to self-destruct. Of course, because their spiritual power and profound qi have been exhausted, even if they self-destruct, it won't set off any storm. At most, their brains will splatter everywhere. After her Shin musician rose to the 7th level, her floating like a dream has also been upgraded. Under the cover of the sound of the zither, as long as the floating like a dream is under the effect of the floating like a dream, the things that left a deep impression in their memories will be exposed in front of Mu Yan. Almost at the moment when floating like a dream is launched, she knows what kind of heartless evil these people have done. Therefore, Mu Yan did not hesitate to punish these people, letting them experience the pain that others have endured in their nightmares, and then die miserably in despair. With the self-destruction of the Raging Flame School disciples, the others in the hall also woke up. Their reactions were also different. The female cultivator named Xiao Huan and the people around her were pleasantly surprised. They had just had a beautiful dream, and when they woke up, they found that not only were their injuries healed, but their cultivation had also improved. On the other hand, the female cultivators who were aggressive towards Mu Yan were all panicking and uneasy. They looked at Mu Yan as if they were looking at a devil. Mu Yan raised the corner of her lips and looked at them with a smile that was not a smile. How about it? Do you still need me to save you now? No, don't. We won't do it again. Demon King, no. Great God Jun, spare my life ah. Scared witless, these people ran out of the place. Just now, those righteous words, feeling that it was a matter of course for Mu Yan to help them, have long since vanished. They probably never wanted to see the god they worshipped ever again. Mu Yan didn't bother with them anymore. She cleaned up the hall. In the end, only a half-dead Kai Ji was left. As the sound of the zither rang out, Kai Ji's body twitched violently, and he slowly opened his eyes. What came into view was a beautiful face that could outshine the moon and put flowers to shame. Ao, I got a piece of good news. Z, who was exhausted, desperately wrote one more chapter. Thank all the readers for their support and love for Z. I love you guys. /txt/83530/ _Baidu search, UC Book League, website, let you experience the latest and fastest chapters, all updated in seconds. Chapter 2363. However, as soon as Kai Ji saw this face, his entire body trembled like a sieve. Feces and urine shot out from his blood-soaked crotch, filling the entire hall with a foul stench. Spare me, great God Jun, I beg you to spare me. Mayan doesn't seem to notice the stench in the hall at all. She looks down at Kai Ji and says indifferently, Speak, what happened to the Chang family back then? Why are you chasing after Changshan? Why did Chang Yu end up in the Yanwu continent? Chang Shen's body suddenly trembles, his hands tightly clenched into fists, and he slowly walks to Mu Yan's side. For as long as he could remember, he had always been on the run and tortured by the cold poison. It had been more than 10 years, and he had almost forgotten what the Chang family was like. He had even forgotten whether he had a father, a mother, an older brother, or any other relatives other than Aunt May. He could still vaguely remember the warmth of their family when they were young. His brother took him to play and taught him the joy of practicing the sword. However, everything changed in a single night. From then on, all that was left for him was endless coldness and despair. In the beginning, he kept asking his mother, "Where are Dad and Mom? Where is Big Brother? Why don't we go home?" Later, in his mother's tears, he slowly understood that he had no parents, no older brother, no home. Chang Shen forced himself not to think about it and gradually forgot all about it. And today, was the truth of the past finally going to be revealed before his eyes? Chang Shen closed his eyes and tears flowed down his cheeks. Suddenly, a hand pressed on his shoulder. Chang Shen turned around and saw Bai Yang's concerned eyes. Looking at Mayan on the side, the despair and hatred in his heart is slowly replaced by strength and warmth. Kai Ji's gaze sweeps over Chang Shen, then falls on Mu Yan in horror. He trembles as he tries to open his mouth. However, he hears Mu Yan sneer, "You'd better think carefully before answering me. If there's even a single lie, I guarantee that you will taste a nightmare 10,000 times more terrifying than just now. If you don't believe me, you can look at the other disciples of your Raging Flame school." Kai Ji turned around and almost fainted from fright. Those people's exploded heads, withered skin, and falling white hair were all close at hand, showing the kind of torture these people had gone through. I'll tell you everything. Junimo Xie, please spare my life. I don't want to experience that nightmare again, even if I die." In Kai Ji's narration, the tragedy of the Chang family, or the former sect master of the Raging Flames sect, finally surfaced. As it turned out, Chang Yu's father, Chang Lisheng, was originally the sect master of the Blazing Flame sect. The current sect master of the Raging Flame sect, Yu Guangquan, was the vice sect master of the Raging Flame sect. The reason why the Raging Flame sect was called the Raging Flame sect was because the Chang family had a set of heaven-tier cultivation methods passed down from generation to generation. As long as a cultivator with a fire attribute spiritual root practiced this set, their cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds. Moreover, his attack power would be doubled when he used fire spells. During his travels, Papa Chang got to know Yu Guangquan, who also had a fire heaven spirit root, and taught him. After cultivating, Yu Guangquan quickly broke through to the nascent soul realm. He was extremely grateful to Papa Chang. The two of them became sworn brothers. Later, it was also under Yu Guangquan's suggestion that Father Chang set up the Blazing Flame sect on the condition that he would be able to impart his knowledge upon entering the sect. It was simply too useful for fire-type cultivators. Thus, more and more people joined the Raging Flame sect, and the Raging Flame sect became increasingly prosperous. Chapter 2364. He even moved step by step from the blue cloud world to the purple cloud world. As time went on, Chang Lisheng's cultivation was getting higher and higher, breaking through to the middle level of leaving body stage in one fell swoop. But Yu Guangquan was stuck at the first level of leaving body stage for a long time, unable to advance any further. Yu Guangquan's heart gradually began to grow jealousy and unwillingness. Until one day he realized that the Raging Flame arts that Chang Lisheng gave him was not complete at all. Only the direct descendants of the Chang family are eligible to learn the core, Raging Flame arts. Yu Guangquan felt that he had been deceived, and he angrily questioned Chang Lisheng. Chang Lisheng hurriedly explained to him that the ancestors of the Chang family had stated clearly when they passed down the Raging Flame arts. The core cultivation method could only be passed on to the children of the Chang family with the purest heavenly fire spiritual roots. Even if other cultivators learned it, they could not achieve the same effect. However, Yu Guangquan didn't listen at all. He only felt that Chang Lisheng didn't want him to surpass him, so he secretly hid the core, raging flame arts. But Yu Guangchuan was very shrewd. He pretended to be convinced by Chang Lisheng. Then he turned around and took advantage of Chang Lisheng's retreat to join forces with Hall Master Kai and the others to exterminate the Chang family. Chang Lisheng never thought that his best brother would betray him. During his retreat, he was cruelly injured by Yu Guangchuan. The next to suffer were Chang Yu and Chang Xin, the two true direct descendants of the Chang family. It was at that time that Chang Yu's dantian was seriously injured, almost shattered. Chang Yu's mother died to protect him. Before she died, she could only do everything to send Chang Yu to the Yanwu continent. When Chang Yu woke up in the Yanwu continent, his cultivation was abolished, he lost his memory, and was eventually sold to the ghost city's Wanrenku. And Chang Shen's mother's personal maid, Cheng Mei, fled with Chang Shen. At that time, Chang Shen was only 3 or 5 years old, still a little baby who didn't understand anything. During the escape, he was carelessly hit by Yu Guangchuan's confidant, and the cold poison entered his body. In just one night, the Chang family was torn apart, and the family was destroyed. However, after Yu Guangchuan slaughtered all of Chang Lisheng's trusted subordinates, he ascended to the position of sect master and took control of the Raging Flame sect. But he searched the whole Raging Flame school and the Chang family, and did not find the core, Raging Flame technique. Thus, he ordered the entire continent to hunt down Cheng Mei. The pitiful Cheng Mei, a weak woman, had to flee everywhere with the seriously injured Chang Shen. Their lives were precarious. The cold poison in Chang Shen's body, unless he used the fire leaf orchid to completely cure it, he could only rely on the fire spirit pill to suppress it day by day. The fire spirit pill was expensive, and Cheng Mei was afraid of being found by the Raging Flame school. One could imagine how hard her days were. In order to become stronger and protect Chang Shen, in order to buy the fire spirit pill, she even did not hesitate to sell her body. Unexpectedly, the two of them were still discovered by the Raging Flame sect. When the Woodfern's secret realm opened, Cheng Mei steeled her heart and entrusted Chang Shen to her good friend, Elder Zhou, before entering the secret realm to look for the fireleaf orchid. But she didn't expect that the people of the Raging Flame sect would still find Chang Shen. If it weren't for Mayan's appearance, the last of the Chang family's only seedling might have already died in Yu Guangchuan's hands. Hearing this, Chang Shen could not help but burst into tears. Bai Yang patted his back to comfort him. Kai Ji looked at Mayan in horror. Great God Jun, I've already said what I needed to say. You said that you would spare me? I don't want to enter that dream again. I don't want to enter that nightmare again even if I die. In truth, Kai Ji was not afraid of death, but he was afraid of the endless cycle of that nightmare. Chapter 2365. In 1 second, 800 mail signs small divided by talks.net, wonderful pop-up window free reading. He even tried to self-destruct, but found that in the sound of the zither, his spiritual power had long been stagnant, and even his divine sense was chaotic, as if it had sunk into thick mercury, and could not guide his dantian to self-destruct at all. Want to die quickly? Mu Yen raised the corner of her mouth and said slowly, Sure, help me do one more thing. What is it? Mu Yen turned her finger, and a light red paper crane appeared in her hand. Send a message to Yu Guangchuan, say that Chang Shen has been caught, but Raging Flame technique was not found on him. Moreover, the cold poison in Chang Shen's body has flared up, and he will die before he reaches Ziyun world. Kai Ji's pupils shrank slightly. You want to kill the sect master? He is a rank 3 leaving aperture realm expert. Mu Yan's fingers gently plucked the strings of the zither, and the corner of her mouth hooked up in a mocking arc. You just need to answer me, will you send it or not? The sound of the zither echoed in his ears, melodious and pleasant, but Kai Ji seemed to hear the call from hell. He immediately screamed, I'll send it. I'll send it. Please don't play the zither anymore. 1 day later, a sword light fell straight from the sky. The huge flying sword slowly became smaller, and 3 people walked down from it. The surrounding air immediately filled with a terrible pressure. If there were people from Qingyun world here, they would have vomited blood and fainted. These three people were Yu Guangquan and his two confidants. One rank 4 leaving Aperture Realm, and 2 peak Nascent Soul. In the entire Qingyun world, how many people have seen such high-level cultivators? A slender man beside Yu Guangquan reached out and fanned the tip of his nose, and said in disgust, "Even the smell of trash gathering place is disgusting." This is Qingyun world after all. The spiritual energy is heterogeneous, and there is no refining God precipice. How can it be compared with our Ziyun world? But we are here to take away that Chang family's son of a bitch. Speaking of which, it is your fault, old Sunday. That cold ice palm was too heavy, and after 10 years, the cold poison has not been cured, and it has become even more serious. The slender man called Old Sun laughed, and his face was quite proud. As the three casually walked, they arrived at the Azure Cloud World's Raging Flame School. Looking at the empty door, Old Sun couldn't help but frown. This Kaiji is getting more and more incompetent. He knows that the sect master is here, but he doesn't even come out to welcome him. But Yu Guangquan said indifferently, "You don't have to care about these customs. This time, as long as he can let me obtain the true blazing flame technique, I will remember his contribution." Thinking about how the core cultivation method of the blaze technique that he had coveted for more than 10 years was about to fall into his hands, his cultivation would improve by leaps and bounds from now on. Yu Guangquan's eyes shone with a fiery light. At this moment, melodious music slowly sounded from within the blazing flame gate. The sound of the zither was like weeping and complaining at one moment, touching and sorrowful at another, stirring and resounding at the next. But no matter what the key was, the sound of the guqin was as pleasant as the sounds of nature, and they were almost unable to extricate themselves from it. However, as he listened, Yu Guangquan first realized that something was wrong. "Damn it! Quickly shield your ears. The one playing the zither is a support musician." Moreover, the effect of the zither music on them was negative support. With Yu Guangquan's shout, the two hall masters realized that something was wrong, and they gathered their spirit to their ears, shielding their hearing. But they were still a step too late. They discovered that the spirit energy that they were originally circulating freely seemed to have been filled with lead. What's going on? Someone actually ambushed us? Chapter 2366. In 1 second, 800 mail signs small divided by talks net. Wonderful pop-up window free reading. Where's Kaiji? Who's playing tricks inside? Still not coming out for me. As the sound of the zither slowly stops, 7 colored sword lights soar into the sky, and eventually converge into a transparent sword in midair. On the sword, the girl in white stands, looking down at the three people. "Hall Master Kai, your sect master is looking for you? Do you want to go down and see him?" A sweet voice, like the sounds of nature, comes unhurriedly from the sky. As soon as the voice falls, a badly mutilated torso is thrown in front of Yu Guangquan. At this time, Kaiji is already at his last gasp, mentally deranged. He doesn't even notice Yu Guangquan, who is close at hand. He just keeps shouting, "I don't want to go back to the nightmare, God Jun. I beg you, kill me, kill me. Kaiji. You're Kaiji." Yu Guangquan's two confidants are simply stunned. Kaiji's cultivation is at the nascent soul stage. In the Qingyun realm, he can be said to be an invincible existence. But now, he has turned into this ghastly appearance. After hearing the 3 words, God Jun, Yu Guangquan's pupils suddenly shrink. He stares at the girl in the sky, muttering, "Fatally beautiful killing God, your Jun Mayan." The 7 absolute sword slowly falls to the ground, and the girl's beautiful face appears in front of the 3 people. Under this look, even the last trace of luck in Yu Guangquan's heart completely disappears. "Jun Mayan, what do you mean by this? My Raging Flame School and the Xiaoyao 7 Sons have no enmity in the past. What do you mean by crippling my men?" His voice is loud and clear, and his tone is questioning. But only he himself knew how much of it. He was just pretending to be tough on the outside but weak on the inside. His eyes keep looking around, wanting to know whether it's Jun Mayan alone, or the Xiaoyao 7 Sons who have all come. Mayan sneers, Don't look, my fellow apprentices aren't here. I'm the only one here. Hearing this, Yu Guangxuan immediately breathes a sigh of relief. A cold light slowly condenses in his eyes as he looks at Mayan. The girl in front of him is indeed stunning, but in the end, she's only a core formation cultivator. He had one out-of-body stage and two nascent soul stage cultivators on his side. Could it be that he couldn't deal with her? As for the Heavensight sect's destruction, it was definitely due to the unique environment of the Woodfern's secret realm. Perhaps it was 3 against 1 from the Xiaoyao sect, or perhaps it was a sneak attack. In short, they were already prepared. Why would they be afraid of a mere little girl? Thinking of this, he cleared his throat and said, "Miss June, has my Raging Flame sect ever offended you?" Mu Yan shook her head. Without waiting for Yu Guangxuan to speak, she sneered, "You didn't offend me, but you offended my elder brother." "Your elder brother?" Mu Yan continued, "You killed Chang Lixing's family, right? Your people crippled Chang Yu's Dantian, and he fell into Yanwu continent, right?" Yu Guangxuan's expression suddenly changed. "You are indeed standing up for the Chang family. Jun Mayan, think about it carefully. The Chang family has long been ruined, and our Raging Flame School is like the sun in the sky. Is it worth it to offend our Raging Flame School for the sake of the ruined Chang family? The dilapidated Chang family? The Raging Flame School that's like the sun in the sky?" Mu Yan sneered and slowly shook her head. "After today, it won't be." Her voice was clear and pleasant to listen to, but it sounded like a curse. Every word smashed into the heads of Yu Guangxuan and the other two, causing an indescribable fear to rise in their hearts. Chapter 2367. Soon, the Raging Flame sect will disappear from this world, and the Chang family will regain its glory one day. Even if the Raging Flame sect reappears in the world one day, the sect master will be surnamed Chang. "Chang Yu, this is the only way I can repay you. May your spirit in heaven witness the re-emergence of the Chang family with your own eyes. Witness the joy and health of your only relative." Hiding in the corner, Chang Xin hears these words with tears streaming down his face. His fists are tightly clenched, and his eyes are full of unswerving determination. He vows that he will not let down the Mrs. expectations, and will not disappoint his mother's sacrifice. One day he will support the Chang family and comfort his parents and brother. The blue sky has become overcast at some point. The pitter-patter of rain falls down. "Don't kill me, I beg you to spare my life." Yu Guangxuan is lying in the muddy grass, blood gurgling out from his wound and the broken leg, mixing with the mud. Beside him, the bodies of his two trusted subordinates lie in disorder. In the curtain of rain, the girl slowly walks over. Her whole body is shrouded in a halo of rich spiritual energy, and the cold rain is blocked outside by the halo. The world is muddy, but the girl walking in the rain seems to be untainted by a speck of dust. At this time, all the emotions in Yu Guangxuan's heart have been replaced by fear and despair. He has no legs, so he keeps clawing at the muddy ground with his hands to crawl backwards. His mouth keeps shouting and begging, "Raging Flame sect, I am willing to give you the Raging Flame sect. Also, I can give you the treasures that I snatched from the Chang family. I only beg you to let me go, let me live." Mayan looks at him expressionlessly for a while, then says faintly, "Little Shen, come here." In the curtain of rain, the youth runs over with large strides. The rain drenches his clothes and hair, but he doesn't notice it at all. His pair of eyes unwaveringly stare at Yu Guangxuan, filled with monstrous anger and hatred. It's this beast that killed his parents and killed his brother. He also forced his mother and elder Zhou into a dead end. Chang Xin is a kind-hearted child, but when he sees this man, he can't wait to tear him to pieces. "Do you want to take revenge with your own hands?" The girl's clear and sweet voice makes Chang Xin jerk his head, and he whispers, "Miss, I." Mu Yan flicked her wrist and a dagger appeared in her hand. She said unhurriedly, "I've smeared 18 types of poisons on this dagger. Each of them will make you wish you were dead, but you won't die in a short period of time. As long as this knife does not pierce his heart, he will continue to sink in the torment of hell until you allow him to escape." Changshen stares blankly at Mu Yen, the rims of his eyes reddening a little as tears fall from his eyes. Mu Yen reveals a gentle smile and shoves the dagger into his hand. Go seek justice for your Chang family, for your mama. Changshen hurriedly wiped away his tears, gripped the dagger tightly, and nodded heavily. Then, with a cold look in his eyes, he walked step by step towards Yu Guangxuan. Changshen, don't you want the Raging Flame sect? You're just a kid. You can't take over the Raging Flame sect. But as long as I help you, you can become the sect master of the Raging Flame sect. Think about it, it's such a glorious thing. Kill me and you'll get nothing. Yu Guangxuan tried his best to tempt him. The Raging Flame sect is a big cake, and Changshen can't swallow it all by himself. Baidu search the UC Book League website and let you experience the latest and fastest chapters, all of which are updated in seconds. Chapter 2368. If he wants to get the Raging Flame sect, he needs his help. Yu Guangxuan believes that no one would not be tempted by such a huge benefit. As long as there's life, there's hope. Today, he failed, but given a chance, he will definitely be able to make a comeback. Yu Guangxuan fearfully sweeps over Mayan, concealing the ruthlessness at the bottom of his eyes. He looks at Changshen with a pleading and fawning expression. Shen, when you were born, Uncle still held you. When you were a child, Uncle also took your brother to gain experience. Uncle also felt guilty about what happened back then, and always wanted to make up for it. I wanted to return the Raging Flame sect to your Chang family. If you don't believe me, you can make me swear a poison oath. If I don't properly assist you, let my reputation be ruined, and I'll be damned. Aya. Before Yu Guangxuan could finish his flowery words, Changshen suddenly stabs him with a knife. In a split second, an indescribable pain spreads throughout Yu Guangxuan's body. It's like countless ants are gnawing at his bones, and like a sharp blade is cutting his head. This kind of pain is by no means something that ordinary people can bear. Changshen coldly looks at him, gritting his teeth. Back then, is this how you deceived my father and my brother? You think that after your true colors are exposed, I can still believe you? What Raging Flame sect, Chang family's treasures, I don't need anything. I only want you to die. The dagger is suddenly pulled out, and once again, it ruthlessly stabs Yu Guangxuan. This knife, I'm giving you on behalf of my father. This knife is for the death of my mother and brother. This knife is for the death of my mother and brother. Again and again. In the blink of an eye, Yu Guangxuan is already riddled with holes, and his flesh is badly mutilated. His body keeps twitching, his face is distorted, and his eyes turn white, but he can't even cry out. Blood keeps splashing, falling on Changshen's face. But it's mixed with rainwater and washed off. Not long after, a bright red puddle converges on the ground. Such a scene should be cruel and bloody, but it's mixed with unspeakable sorrow and sadness. After 2 hours of torture, Yu Guangxuan finally breathed his last. Changshen stared blankly at the blood and flesh being washed away by the rain. He suddenly threw away the dagger and fell to his knees with a thud, wailing loudly. Mama, Dad, Mom, Brother, Shen has taken revenge for you. Ooh. The Chang clan was avenged, but the dead would never come again. Mama, Shen misses you so much. Can you see it? The enemy you wanted to kill, Shen killed him for you. Dad, Mom, Brother, can you all come? Shen missed you guys so much. Bai Yang squatted down in front of Changshen and used his remaining hand to pull the lonely crying youth into his arms. Little Shen, don't cry. Although your family is gone, we will always be by your side. Changshen slowly raised her head and looked at Bai Yang with her watery eyes. Brother Bai Yang, you won't abandon me like my mom, right? You're the only family I have left. I don't want to be alone anymore. Bai Yang smiled softly and caressed his head. Of course I won't abandon you. What's more, how could you be alone? Did you forget that the miss said that she would take me to see your brother's brothers? They will definitely take good care of you. The rain started to fall, and it didn't stop. Mu Yen took Chang Shen and Bai Yang to a small town not far from the Raging Flame sect. Baidu search UC Book League website and let you experience the latest and fastest chapters, all of which are updated in seconds. Chapter 2369. As for Su Qing, without the task of leading the way, Mu Yen lets him go back first. Chang Shen, Miss, where are we going? Is it to see my brother's brother? They're in this town? Mu Yen smiled and didn't say anything. Instead, she walked straight into the town's largest inn. When the waiter saw them, he immediately welcomed them warmly. Without waiting for him to speak, Mayan says, I want to see your boss. The waiter was startled and said awkwardly, Sir, our boss doesn't meet people easily. Mu Yen hands a black token to the waiter. Give this to your boss, he will see it. The waiter suspiciously took the token and looked at it. In the center of the black jade token, there was a flame symbol. Under the illumination of the light, the flames seemed to flicker with red light. The waiter took the token doubtfully and left. Not long after, a middle-aged man rushed down the stairs. Seeing Mayan, he almost kneels down with a thud. Darren, why did you come in person? This middle-aged man wasn't a core member of the Nether Flame Army, but he was a core member of the Heaven Secret Battalion. Therefore, he knew Mayan's identity and this Dark Flame token, which represented the supreme position of the Dark Flame Army. When he thought of Mu Yan's identity, the middle-aged man couldn't help but tremble all over. He was excited and nervous. Mayan faintly smiles. She doesn't say any nonsense and directly says via secret sound transmission, Go send a message, have the ink camp send someone over. The middle-aged man did not dare to delay and hurriedly obeyed the order. Mu Yen brought Bai Yang and Chang Shen to settle down first. She originally thought that she would have to wait for a few days, but she didn't expect that after half a day, she would rush to the small town alone. The one who comes is the captain of the ink camp, Guan Hu. He just happens to be carrying out a mercenary mission in the vicinity. Hearing Mayan summon, he doesn't care about the mission or the reward and rushes over regardless of the consequences. When Guan Hu sees Mayan, he immediately steps forward and kneels down in excitement. Greetings, miss. Mayan waves her hand to let him get up. Guan Hu also knows that the miss and the little master don't like empty formalities, so he immediately stands up with a grin. Miss, what instructions do you have for me? Did someone offend you? I'll immediately gather the people from the ink camp to help you teach them a lesson. Mu Yen looks at him with a smile that isn't a smile. Guan Hu's back immediately trembled and he came back to his senses. What the hell? Is his brain damaged? What kind of person was their young miss? Not to mention sweeping across the Yenwu continent, even in the current Xiuzhen continent, the names of the fatally beautiful killing god and the she-devil would be known to everyone. In this world, the people who offended their young miss would probably already have grass growing on their graves. Would it still be their turn to teach them a lesson? Guan Hu dryly laughs. I'm used to it, used to it. Miss, don't get used to it. Who told the Nether Flame Army to be a bandit-like existence back in the Yenwu continent? Whichever force dared to offend Mayan, offend the Netherworld Flame Valley, they would immediately crush them with a crushing force. That feeling was fucking awesome. Unfortunately, after coming to the cultivation continent, their cultivation was pitifully weak. Any random disciple from that sect could crush them. Therefore, they could only hide their strength and bide their time, enduring and keeping a low profile. However, Guan Hu had really had enough of the days where he had to tuck his tail between his legs. Even in his dreams, he hoped that the Nether Fire Army could recover its former glory. Mu Yen seems to have seen through his thoughts, and says in a low voice, There will be that day. Besides, it won't be far. Chapter 2370. With that, she casually tossed a dozen storage rings into Guan Hu's hand. Guan Hu hurriedly caught them and looked at Mu Yen blankly, then probed inside with his divine sense. He almost fainted at the sight. Crystals, magic treasures, elixirs, densely packed, layer upon layer, piling up into small hills in the storage rings. Heavens! How much wealth would that be? The miss actually threw them to him so casually. Little. Miss, what are these? Guan Hu's mouth was stuttering. Mu Yen casually said, didn't I say? I will be responsible for the development of the Nether Flame Army. These are the resources for the next year. The last time they came out of the Woodfern secret realm, because they were in a hurry, they only left a small portion of the resources in the Nether Flame Valley. This time at the Xiaoyao sect, Mu Yen let her fellow apprentices pick the treasures they needed first and left a large pile of crystals for Qi Huang. As for the rest, she planned to give them to the Nether Flame Army except for elixirs. Guan Hu opened his mouth, a burst of warmth surging in his heart, his eyes also swollen. The value of the treasures here was so high that any cultivator would go crazy with greed. But the miss didn't hesitate to give them to him. This kind of trust made the usually talkative Guan Hu choke with sobs for a moment, unable to say a word. He silently swore in his heart that no one in the Nether Flame Army could betray the Mississippi. If anyone dared to do so, he, Guan Hu, would be the first to cut off that traitor's dog head. Mu Yen didn't feel anything, probably because the treasures in the Woodfern's secret realm came too easily. She was just a little worried. She thought that the harvest in the Woodfern's secret realm was big enough. But Qi Huang exploited a small part of it, she spent part of it on elixirs, and the rest was given to the Nether Flame Army. She actually became a pauper again. Moreover, the Nether Flame Army's business was getting bigger and bigger. If she wanted to ensure the Nether Flame Army's full development, she was afraid that these resources could only last for half a year at most. Alas, although it was easy to earn crystals, it was even easier to spend them. Mu Yen calmed herself down and put the worries about crystals to the back of her mind. She looked at Guan Hu and said, this time I called you here to bring someone back to the ink camp. Little Shen, come out. A youngster slowly walked out from the inner room, looking at Guan Hu nervously from time to time. Guan Hu blinked his eyes and said loudly, Miss, this kid looks very thin and weak, like a pretty boy. Why do you want to put him in the ink camp? I feel that the secret division and longevity division are more suitable for him, right? Mu Yen slowly says, his name is Chang Shen. Guan Hu stares blankly at first, then he seems to have thought of something and suddenly turns his head to look at the youth. A pair of tiger-like eyes stared fixedly at the youth's face, sweeping up and down, as if wanting to see through his face. Brat, I think your face looks a little like my dead brother. Chang Shen raised his head and said softly, Chang Yu is my older brother. After learning that Chang Shen was Chang Yu's younger brother, Guan Hu acted out of character and no longer despised Chang Shen's thinness and slenderness. He hugged her tightly and refused to let go, muttering non-stop, This is great, this is great. Chang Yu has a successor. I'm relieved. The corner of Mu Yan's mouth twitched. There's a successor, there's no successor is used like this? She didn't say anything more. After handing over Chang Shen and Bai Yang to Guan Hu, she left. Chapter 2371. Back then in the ink camp, the one who had the best relationship with Chang Yu was Guan Hu. Chang Yu's death also saddened the brothers of the ink camp the most. She believes that the ink camp will certainly take good care of and teach Chang Shen. As for Bai Yang, Mayan also let Guan Hu take him to the Everlasting Camp. It was hard to find talents in the Everlasting Camp. Hai Tang would definitely be ecstatic if she saw this rare forging genius. Mu Yen returned to the Raging Flame School of the Blue Cloud World alone. Looking at the hollowed-out main hall, she remembers the dirty and ugly scene that used to be here. She takes out the Tian Mo Chin and plucks the strings. Countless flaming zither blades rain down. With a few loud bangs, the once prosperous Raging Flame Gate collapsed and turned into ruins. Mu Yen softly said in her heart, Chang Yu, goodbye. She turned around and was about to leave when suddenly, an extremely uneasy premonition flowed through her entire body. Ever since her Shin musician skills reached the 7th level, Mu Yen feels that her 6th sense has become several times sharper than before. In a battle with a profound immortal like Qin Peng, it was impossible for him not to be crushed to death immediately. To a certain extent, he relied on this kind of prediction of crisis. Therefore, when the ominous premonition rushes in once again, Mayan doesn't even think about it. The Tian Emochin transforms into the 7 absolute swords and rushes forward. Like an arrow shot from a bow, he flew into the distance. Almost as soon as her figure disappeared, Leng Yuexia landed in front of the ruins of the Raging Flames sect and frowned. She explores with her divine sense and captures the aura that pervades the surroundings. Her eyes are cold. Yes, it's indeed the unique fluctuation of the demonic power of those Shin musicians, and it hasn't been long since they left. Little bitch, since I've come down, do you think you can escape from me? Just as she finished speaking, Leng Yuexia's figure suddenly disappeared from where she stood, and a stream of light flew towards the direction that Mu Yen was flying towards. Leng Yuexia was a profound immortal of a much higher level than Qin Peng. Her speed is definitely not something a little Jindan stage cultivator like Mu Yen can compare with. So in the blink of an eye, Leng Yuexia catches up with Mu Yen. Dark clouds gathered in the sky, and the pitter-patter of rain became heavier and heavier. This time, Mu Yen didn't waste her spiritual power and used divine hands weave heaven to block the rain. Instead, she allowed the rain to drench her clothes and hair. She stared unblinkingly at the cold and elegant woman not far away. The woman looked to be in her 30s and had a gorgeous appearance. But this kind of beauty didn't have the slightest feeling of being bright and beautiful. Instead, it was mixed with a trace of viciousness and ruthlessness. When people looked at this charming face, not only would they not be infatuated or stunned, they would instead be fearful. The dense rain fell on the elegant woman's body, but it didn't touch her in the slightest. Hovering in the air, she is slightly higher than Mu Yen. At this time, looking down at her from above, she has a feeling of disdain, as if she was looking at an ant. This kind of contempt, as well as the frightening pressure that is being emitted from her body, makes Mu Yen almost immediately determine that the person who has come is not someone from the Xiuzhen continent. This was another so-called immortal from the Xiuxian continent. Moreover, it was an immortal who wanted to kill him. While Mu Yen is sizing up Leng Yuexia is also looking at Mu Yen. At that time, when Leng Qingwan took the magnificent quicksand and changed her appearance, a deep jealousy welled up in Leng Yuexia's heart. Because the current Leng Qingwan is so beautiful, even far surpassing her when she was young. And her appearance is similar to the remnants of the Shin musicians. Chapter 2372. This makes Leng Yuexia uncontrollably recall the time when Bailey Yinlu robbed her of all her glory and her man. She's not reconciled. She doesn't understand why the heavens favor that group of Shin musicians so much, giving them such amazing talents, and even giving them such disdainful beauty. However, at this very moment, when she sees the real Mayan, only then does she know how ridiculous Leng Qingwan's 50 to 60% resemblance is. The girl in front of her is completely drenched, and half of her hair, messed up by the wind and rain, is stuck to her face. But such a sorry figure can't diminish her beauty in the slightest. Seeing her, Leng Yuexia knows what it means to truly captivate even the birds and beasts, to overshadow the moon and put flowers to shame. What is truly unparalleled beauty? Even the Bailey Yinlu of those years couldn't compare to her peerless elegance. But the more she understands, the more the jealousy and unwillingness in her heart are like a viper gnawing at her soul. But why isn't she, Leng Yuexia, the one with such an unparalleled beauty? Why isn't her origin bone suitable to take the magnificent quicksand? If she also had such an unparalleled beauty, would the man she loved at that time still be willing to abandon her and choose that slut Bailey Yinlu? Leng Yuexia takes a deep breath, stabilizing her tumbling emotions from jealousy and hatred. Even if the Shin musician slut's talent is outstanding, how seductive. In the end, the Shin musician sect was destroyed. Not a single person was left alive. Now, the only remaining Shin musician remnant will also die in her hands. And she, Leng Yuexia, will use Leng Qingwan to hook up with the polar domain's monarch. In the end, she will get wind, she will get rain. She will ruthlessly trample all those who had mistreated her under her feet. Thinking of this, the jealousy in Leng Yuexia's eyes disappears, replaced by the carefree feeling of looking down on an ant. Killing an ant like you will only dirty my hands. Mutilate yourself. I'll leave your corpse intact. Mayan slightly narrows her eyes. Who are you? Why do you want to kill me? Leng Yuexia sneers and says impatiently, you're not qualified to know. My patience is limited. If you don't do it yourself, it won't be so easy to die later. As soon as she finished speaking, she couldn't care less about the backlash she might suffer in the cultivation continent. She released her profound immortal aura with all her might. Mu Yen only felt that the surrounding air seemed to have solidified in an instant, fiercely pounding on her sea of consciousness and divine soul. Her face was deathly pale, and beads of sweat rolled down her forehead. Leng Yuxia teasingly looked at her miserable appearance, waiting for her to show a look of panic and fear, kneeling down and begging for mercy. As long as he thinks of the remnants of the Shin musicians kneeling in front of him, begging for their lives like dogs. Her heart was filled with an indescribable joy. However, after Mu Yan's initial change in expression, he returned to normal in the blink of an eye. Her face was still pale, but there was no trace of fear in her eyes, only calmness and coldness. With a wave of his hand, the Seven Absolutes sword becomes the Tian Mo Qin. Slender, jade-like fingers gently pluck on the Tian Mo Qin. Stabilizing soul activated. His sea of consciousness and divine soul, which were on the verge of collapse due to Leng Yuexia's pressure, rapidly recovered under the soothing sound of the zither. At the same time, Mu Yen didn't hold anything back. Graceful feather activated. Lotus steps activated. Cloud-encompassing heavenly net activated. The stellar domain quickly spread out like a huge net, completely enveloping a large area around it. Bookmarked for easier reading. Chapter 2373. Leng Yuexia's face darkens in an instant. 7th rank Shin musician. How old is this slut? How long has it been since she ascended from the Yanwu continent to the Xiuzhen continent? Yet she has already risen to the 7th rank of Shin musician. Moreover, her zither music can even easily dissolve the pressure of a Xian immortal like her. Her stellar domain has already reached the 3rd rank. Her own domain has only just entered the 4th rank. Leng Yuxia's heart surges with an indescribable panic. This slut, if she is given a little more time to grow, the consequences would be unimaginable. Leng Yuexia's eyes sweep over the Tian Mo Qin, a trace of greed welling up in her eyes. When Leng Qingwan said that she couldn't get the Tian Mo Qin from Mayan, she didn't take it to heart. Probably because she knew that the major sects of the Xiuxian continent chased after the Shin music sect, exterminating them. Only Bailey Yinlu dragged her half-dead body and fled to the Xiuzhen continent and the Yanwu continent. During that time, she probably didn't want them to take advantage of her, so she dismantled the Tian Mo Qin one by one. The most important parts were discarded at will. By the time she reached the Yanwu continent, the Tian Mo Qin had almost become a waste. This also caused Bailey Yinlu's strength to drop greatly. Just as she escaped to the Yanwu continent, she was immediately killed. However, how could they have thought that this slut had left behind a contingency plan? Leaving the Tian Mo Qin and the Shin musician inheritance in the Yanwu continent. But even if she obtained the Shin musician inheritance, without the assistance of a powerful enough Tian Mo Qin, her strength could not be improved. But now, Mayan's Shin musician skills have been upgraded to the 7th rank. That means that the Tian Mo Qin is at least half repaired. This kind of Tian Mo Qin, plus the Shin musician inheritance, if she, Leng Yuexia, can obtain it, the cold contempt on Leng Yuexia's face is gradually replaced by excitement. She says in a deep voice, Ben Gong will give you another chance. Hand over the Tian Mo Qin and the Shin musician inheritance, and I can only abolish your cultivation and spare your dog life. While Leng Yuexia is observing and talking, Mayan has never stopped playing the zither. Hearing that, she laughs mockingly. Do you people of the Xiuxian continent all like to talk nonsense? Also, you're especially poor, and often like to ask for things from other people's hands. You have a righteous and self-righteous attitude that you have to give. Heh, who gave you face? Oh, that's not right. I don't think you guys have any shame, do you? Leng Yuexia's expression suddenly turned cold, and her anger burst forth. It's your honor that I want your things. A mere golden core cultivator dares to be impudent in front of me? I only want— All right, I'm tired of hearing this kind of harsh words. Mu Yen mercilessly interrupts her. If you want to fight, then fight. If you don't want to fight, then get lost. If you want what I have, you'll have to step over my dead body. Of course, the premise is that these things are still intact when I die. As soon as he finished speaking, the last note was finished. The Tian Mo Qin in her hand suddenly turns into the 7 absolute swords. Under the curtain of rain, 7 identical figures held the 7 absolute swords and surrounded Leng Yuexia. Then they suddenly attacked. Leng Yuexia was trembling with anger. She was so angry that she even forgot to shield herself from the rain, which made her hair and clothes wet. Never had she imagined that a tiny golden core realm cultivator wouldn't reveal fear and caution when facing a mysterious immortal like her, but would instead be so unbridled and arrogant. Chapter 2374. However, due to her unstable state of mind, she actually failed to dodge one of the attacks from the 7 figures. The invincible 7 absolutes sword directly cuts a deep scar on her face. Slut! Slut! You dare to hurt me! Leng Yuexia is furious. She touches her blood-stained cheek, her body trembling uncontrollably. But very quickly, the anger in her eyes is replaced by an ice-cold murderous intent. Her whole body regains the splendor and majesty of the Tian Emen's master. The corners of her mouth curl up into a cold smile. You're right, I shouldn't have talked nonsense with you. The remnants of the Shin musicians are demons that can subvert the 3 realms and the 6 paths. Everyone has the right to punish them. From the very beginning, I should have done everything in my power to scatter your soul and scatter it. Meeting her cold and vicious eyes, Mayan's heart shudders, and she quickly retreats. But in the end, she's still a step too late. Leng Yuexia suddenly raises her hand, and a dark red furnace flies out from her hand. When the furnace just flew out, it was only the size of a palm, but it gets bigger and bigger as it gets in the air. As Leng Yuexia injects her spiritual sense and spiritual power into the furnace, countless ice swords suddenly spring out of the furnace, shooting straight towards Mayan. Mayan displays the lotus-blooming steps to the extreme, and her figure is like a ghost, evading the ice swords. But there are too many ice swords. Finally, she still couldn't hold on, and a sword pierces through her shoulder. Ugh! Mayan couldn't help but let out a muffled groan from the bone-piercing cold. Her body falls down from the air, heavily smashing into the wet grass, and she spits out a mouthful of blood. This time, Leng Yuexia doesn't lower her guard because of her sorry state and injury. She soars up and fishes in the dark red furnace. She pulls out a fiery red longsword and thrusts it straight at Mayan. Mayan doesn't care about the pain in her shoulder. The 7 absolute sword is held horizontally in front of her, and a sword flower is drawn. Clang, clang, clang. Under the gloomy curtain of rain, bright sparks burst out from the collision of the 2 swords. Leng Yuexia's eyes slightly widen, revealing an incredulous and stunned expression. Her sword was actually blocked. Leng Yuexia's dark red cauldron was a high-grade godly monarch artifact called the 5 Elements Cauldron. The magic treasures of the Xiaoxian continent were divided into Divine Artifact, Heavenly Divine Artifact, Godly King Artifact, Sacred Ancestral Artifact, Sacred Artifact, and Heavenly Sacred Artifact. High-grade God King tools were rare even in the Xiaoxian continent. From this cauldron, Leng Yuexia could take out offensive treasures of the 5 elements. The ice arrow and the fire attribute flying sword in her hand were one of the treasures taken out of the 5 elements cauldron. On the Xiaoxian continent, even if Leng Yuexia encountered a cultivator of the same level as her, as long as she took out the 5 elements cauldron, she would definitely win. This fire elemental flying sword could even split mountains and shatter rocks. It could instantly destroy most middle grade and inferior grade divine monarch weapons. But at this time, when facing a little girl in the gold core realm, not only was he unable to destroy her, but he was also faintly suppressed. Bang! With a loud bang, the two of them separated. Mayan spits out another mouthful of blood. Her small face is deathly pale, without a trace of blood. Even her lips are faintly purple. That sword just now was her own creation, the second move of the blood slaughter sword array, the flowing light sword shadow. It's the same as the first move, the swimming dragon's double slash. The move is powerful, but it consumes most of her spiritual energy and physical strength. Now, she's riddled with scars, and she's already an arrow at the end of its flight. Leng Yuexia, on the other hand, is calm and composed. Apart from the small injury on her face, she doesn't have the slightest loss. This is an immortal. This is the true strength of a mystic immortal. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 2375. Crushing a puny core stage cultivator isn't the slightest bit of pressure. Leng Yuexia doesn't lower her guard. She quickly takes out the third artifact from the 5 elements cauldron. It's a small hammer that emits a golden glow. She just reaches out and gently waves it in the sky. A golden lightning strikes Mayan's body. Mayan rolls away, barely dodging it. The second, third, and dozens of lightning bolts follow. Mayan simply can't avoid this intensive attack, so she can only open the divine weaves the sky protective shield. The lightning strikes the shield, but it doesn't bounce back. That's because the gap in cultivation between the two is too big. Every lightning strike consumes some of the spiritual energy in Mayan's dantian. She keeps spitting out blood, her body is covered in mud, and the rain mixed with blood flows down from her hair. She can't even stand up. She can only use the 7 absolute sword to support her body, so that she doesn't fall. Seeing this scene, Leng Yuexia's face finally shows a smile. That's because she knows that Jun Mayan has already lost all power to resist. The last Shin musician remnant is about to be easily pinched to death by her. Leng Yuexia gently swings the hammer, about to send another lightning strike. But she suddenly sees that the protective shield that was protecting Mayan underneath has disappeared. The girl, covered in blood and dirt, slowly raises her head, her eyes looking straight at Leng Yuexia. Her face is deathly pale, but her eyes are so bright that they seem to be burning. At this moment, there isn't a trace of fear in her eyes, only a determination to die without returning. Leng Yuexia sneers, gnashing her teeth. What she hates the most is that group of bitches from the Shin music sect, who look at death with equanimity. It's as if, no matter how much they suppress and kill, they will never truly die out, and one day they will rise from the ashes. With a wave of her hand, she summons the 5 elements cauldron in front of her. She throws a ball of Dan fire into the cauldron, and it burns brightly in the cauldron. After a while, a pitch-black whip slowly floats out of the 5 elements cauldron and falls into Leng Yuexia's hand. This 5 elements whip is the ultimate form of all the weapons in the 5 elements cauldron. Leng Yuexia raises the whip and fiercely swings it at Mayan. This whip sent Mu Yan's entire person flying out fiercely. On her back, a piece of flesh had been scraped off. Her flesh was badly mangled, and her bones were exposed. There were even burn marks. Even with Mayan's perseverance, she still lies prone on the ground, unable to get up for a long time. The blood mixed with the rainwater and pooled into a small puddle around her. Jun Mayan, let me out. I want to kill this old woman. I want to kill her. Beside his ear was 7 Brilliance's almost crazed roars. There were also the anxious cries of Little Chick and Little Phoenix. However, Mu Yan felt that these voices were so far away from her, so far away, as if they came from the horizon. A huge impact comes from the Tian Mo Qin space. Mu Yan knows that Qi Huang couldn't help but come out. Idiot Qi Shao Huang, do you want to die? Didn't you say that no matter what, no one can discover your existence? Until one day, I have enough power to protect you from anyone. Even Seven Brilliance's final roar had faded into the distance. Mu Yan only feels that her body, soaked in the rain, is getting colder and colder, and her consciousness is getting more and more absent-minded. She thinks, can I really wait until that day comes? Can I protect Xiao Bao's healthy growth? Can I openly stand by Di Mingju's side? Chapter 2376. Can I make it so that seven Xiaowangs no longer have to hide in the space alone and walk under the sun fearlessly? Can I really do it? No one notices that the Evoid Spirit Ring, on Mayan's left hand, is glowing faintly. This light looks very unremarkable under the curtain of rain, but little by little, it seeps into Mayan's skin, faintly spreading through her flesh and blood, bit by bit seeping into her bones. Suddenly, Mu Yan's fuzzy consciousness clears up a little. Her ears were still buzzing, and she couldn't hear Qi Huang's roars clearly, nor could she hear Little Chick and Little Phoenix's voices. However, she heard some strange sounds. The soil and grass beneath her were breathing. The raindrops falling from the sky collided with each other, rubbing against the air and falling slowly. There was also the sound of surging water in the distance. That water was different from ordinary rivers, lakes, and seas. Even from so far away, one could still feel the powerful and terrifying energy. It was as if even a cultivator at the tribulation passing stage would be torn to pieces in an instant. That was a branch of the God-refining abyss, under the God-refining precipice. It was rumored that the cultivators who fell into the God-refining abyss would have their souls destroyed, and they would never be able to reincarnate. Mu Yan suddenly opens her eyes, before Ling Yuexia's second whip comes. He rose up and flew towards the refining God abyss without hesitation. You want to escape? Ling Yuexia sneered. Let's see if you can escape. After saying that, her figure flashed and disappeared on the spot. Jun Mayan, what are you doing? Hurry up and let me out. Let me kill this old woman. Mu Yan, Qi Huang, don't be noisy. You idiot, don't you know you're dying? Qi Huang's explosive words are interrupted by Mu Yan's weak voice. It's not a desperate situation yet, I can't risk your safety. Qi Huang was stunned for a moment. He stood on the grass in a daze, his hands tightly clenched into fists. Mu Yan only ran for a few breaths before Ling Yuexia caught up with her. Ling Yuexia lashed out with her whip. Mu Yan, however, doesn't dodge or evade. She directly uses her back, which is already riddled with scars, to directly receive the whip. Puff! A large mouthful of blood spurted out. Her figure suddenly scuttled a few steps forward, and when she landed, she was already on the cliff in front of the God-refining abyss. Ling Yuexia's footsteps came to a sudden halt. Her gaze swept across the surging black water below, and a trace of seriousness appeared on her face. God-refining abyss. There's actually a God-refining abyss here. If she was swallowed by the God-refining abyss, even if she was a Xian immortal, she would die a horrible death. The God-refining abyss was a place where even the immortal bone could be crushed. Ling Yuexia's gaze turns towards Mayan. Hee, you want to perish indiscriminately and jump into the refining God abyss? A look of disdain appeared on her face. Do you think you have the chance to jump down in front of me? Yes. Ling Yuexia would not give Mu Yan the chance to jump into the refining God abyss. Once she turned around, the five-element whip would pierce through her body. Moreover, the whip can extend and split infinitely, and can even bring her corpse and the Tian Mo Qin together. Most of the time, when the weak faced the strong, they didn't even have the chance to seek death. Mu Yan's body was on the verge of collapse, but the hand holding the seven absolutes sword did not tremble at all. She slowly said in a hoarse voice, "If I don't try, how would I know?" Saying that, she turned around without hesitation and jumped into the God-refining abyss. Damn it! Ling Yuexia cursed, and the five-element whip promptly lashed out at Mu Yan. Chapter 2377. She certainly doesn't care if Mayan dies in the refining God abyss, but she's determined to get the Tian Mo Qin. The Tian Emochin is now in its second stage of advancement. Once Mayan dies, the Tian Emochin will directly return to Mayan's knowledge sea. When the time comes, she won't be able to get anything. Leng Yuexia certainly won't allow the treasure that's already in her mouth to disappear just like that. She must obtain Jun Mayan's corpse and take out the Tian Emochin from her sea of consciousness. The 5 elements whip turns into dozens of whip shadows, twisting and winding, and rolls towards Mayan with lightning speed. Whether she wants to jump into the refining god abyss herself, or throw the Tian Emochin down, she can't escape from the 5 elements whip. Leng Yuexia's eyes hold a cold and contemptuous smile. Looking at the girl's frail figure shrouded by the whip shadows, it's like looking at an ant struggling on its deathbed. However, the next moment, Leng Yuexia suddenly widens her eyes, revealing an incredulous expression. Pa 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 pa. The 5 elements whip falls, but Mayan's figure, who should have remained in place, disappears with a loud bang, like the moon in the water. Not good. Leng Yuexia has just realized something when a monstrous sword intent, like ice and fire, pours towards her. She quickly tries to retreat, but her body seems to be entangled by invisible threads, making her unable to budge for a while. This gap is actually very short, so short that it doesn't even last for a breath. But on the ever-changing battlefield, this breath is already enough to change the situation. Suddenly, the girl's beautiful face, drenched in sweat and blood, is very close. Immediately after, there's a severe pain in her abdomen, accompanied by scorching heat and cold. A whirlpool forms at her wound, frantically devouring her immortal energy. That's right, this whirlpool isn't actually devouring spiritual energy, but the immortal energy that she could hardly recover in the Xiuzhen continent. Leng Yuexia widens her eyes in horror, incredulously looking at the person in front of her. The girl's pale lips, without a trace of blood, slowly hooks up, and she says in a hoarse voice, "I have never used this move since I created it, because even I don't know what kind of price I have to pay to use it. However, to make you pay such a painful price, even if I die, it's worth it." The third move that she created from little martial uncle's blood slaughter sword array is called Mutual Destruction. "Even if I die, I will drag you to hell." Ah. Bitch, go to hell. Leng Yuexia's face twisted as she furiously waved her palm. Mu Yen flew out like a kite with its string cut, flying straight to the top of the god-refining abyss and falling down rapidly. Leng Yuexia had originally wanted to take out some medicinal pills to stabilize her injuries, but when she saw this scene, her expression immediately changed. She could no longer care about healing her injuries as she flew down the god-refining abyss at lightning speed. As he sped down, the 5 elements whip in his hand fiercely lashed out, wanting to catch up with Mayan. The speed of a Xian immortal was extremely fast, even though Leng Yuexia's strength was suppressed in the cultivation continent. But it still quickly catches up with the falling Mayan. The 5 elements whip winds and twists, coiling around Mayan's body. The surging river below was very close, but there was still a distance of about a foot between them. A relieved smile appeared on Leng Yuexia's face, but it soon turned into a malevolent and twisted hatred. "Bitch, do you want to die so easily after hurting me? Dream on." Leng Yuexia didn't appear. On the chest of the unconscious Mayan, a yellow, fluffy chick had drilled out at some unknown time. Its soft fur is wet from the rain, all sticking to its body. It looks like a pitiful bald chicken. Bookmarked for easier reading. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.